Day one of legal tampering, or really the unofficial start of free agency in the NFL. Tons and tons of money and signings being thrown around the league. The Bills making a couple of moves. One at wide receiver. Josh Palmer, formerly of the LA Chargers, signs a 3-year deal worth up to $36 million with the Bills. One big season a few years ago of over 70 catches, otherwise usually in the 30s. In LA for receptions. Palmer to the Bills, a separator, man coverage beater. They also make an addition on the defensive line. Michael Hoecht, a defensive tackle, defensive end, has played linebacker, has even played in coverage. Swiss Army knife, 3-year, $24 million deal for Hoecht to leave the Rams to come to the Bills. The Bills losing one of their own yesterday that was a little bit surprising. Mack Hollins is going to the New England Patriots on a 2-year, roughly $8 million deal to go to the Patriots. Some other signings around the NFL. Seattle has their Geno Smith replacement, and it's another former Jets quarterback. Sam Darnold is going to Seattle on a 3-year deal worth roughly $100 million. Other quarterback movement in the league, still waiting on Aaron Rodgers. Mike Florio reports that the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers could have an agreement in place as soon as today, but there's a lot of reporting that the Giants are waiting on Rodgers, that they would like to sign him as well. Sabres in action last night. They get the win, 3-2 over McDavid and the Oilers. That's the Sabres' 4th win in their last 5 home meetings against Edmonton. So they get the win. Josh Norris records his first point as a Sabre on a Tage Thompson goal. Thompson had 2. Next up tomorrow night in Detroit, 7:30 puck drop tomorrow. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of business.
Good morning. If you stood in the sun yesterday, raise your hand. I got a suggestion for everybody. Yep. If you're going to refresh Twitter and check to see moves that the Bills made, walk outside and do it out there, and whatever happens, you'll be like, man, this is great. Josh Palmer's the best receiver of all time. Michael Hoecht is my favorite player ever. I'm standing in the sun. Life couldn't possibly be better.
Was it fitting that yesterday actually you couldn't refresh Twitter, so you had to go to Blue Sky while there were blue skies?
Yes.
It was perfect.
I enjoyed it. What a day. Got out. Our garage threw up, and by that I mean the door opened and everything came out of it because the kids want every bike and every scooter, and I got cushions out, and I got to tend to the backyard. Yard work season's upon us, whatever. It was incredible yesterday.
I'm not looking forward to that. Not that I didn't know this was kind of the case, because we had like our whatever front yard was dug up for like plumbing stuff during the fall, and you put the grass and everything back on, and then it started to sink a little bit, and then the snow melts to uncover that there's like a lot that's sunk. So there's going to be a lot of yard work being done as soon as it's not slop.
Right.
Although I guess maybe it wasn't very Owen went golfing yesterday and said it wasn't like muddy.
Owen,
it had to get muddy at some point, I'm sure.
You sent us a picture, Owen. You went to the course, or did you play? You hit the ball?
Up there I hit balls. I didn't play the full course. There were holes on some greens.
Yeah.
Some with no
and
holes.
Snow on some.
There was snow on holes.
Yeah.
But I needed to see golf balls fly through the air.
How'd you hit them?
I hit it pretty good.
Oh, he's back.
I was ready. I was ready.
He's back.
That's like the first game with a new team adrenaline that you get.
Yeah. Beautiful outside.
It was very nice. And today it's going to be nice again, right?
Yes, it is. It's going to be nice for a week. I mean, the weekend is in the 60s with a little bit of wind, but the high today is 55, then tomorrow 40, Thursday 40, but Friday 68. My favorite
68.
The best the best comment to make on this, somebody tweeted it years ago along the lines of they said that the phrase was just, I think seasonal depression might be bogus until you get outside on the first nice day of the year and it feels like you're on drugs. Like, oh my God, what's happened to me?
Yeah.
It's a different experience for me. So, yeah, whatever. It's great. It's great. Good morning, Jeremy and Joe. I have a very, very deep pull on Mack Hollins.
Okay.
None of
you
you
are no longer a Buffalo
who is
Bill.
no longer a Bill.
But he's still in the division.
He is.
Yeah.
And none of you young ones here are going to get it, and even some of you old folks won't even get this. But I was trying to think of what Mack Hollins ultimately is, because yesterday I was kind of toying with the idea of there could be some Bills fans that are really heartbroken when this guy leaves, and he might leave.
Mm-hmm.
And are you prepared for that? Won't it feel like some sort of betrayal is the wrong word, but hey, wait a minute. This was supposed to be a fun relationship. You walk in with, costumes and no shoes, and you play hard, and you represent the Bills, and we love you. And
Trash talk. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's pointing at guys as they're on the ground, and the Bills are scoring over their faces.
He was lovable for a lot of reasons. And then he outperformed. He led the team in touchdown receptions. And he was kind of not quite a lightning rod. I don't think anybody was mad about his existence. It would be, I love that guy. I don't feel like he should lead me in touchdown catches, but I love that guy. And then he leaves, and there's this void left of what I thought this was special. I kind of thought we had something here. So I was trying to think of all the ways to compare that, and I'm just going to mention it and move on because I'm proud that I thought of it. There's an episode of The Simpsons where there's a substitute teacher, and Lisa falls in love with the substitute teacher because it's played by Dustin Hoffman. I know, whatever.
Okay.
And he's new and interesting, and his techniques are amazing, and she loves him, and then he leaves because he's a substitute teacher. And she is heartbroken. And that's Mack Hollins.
He was a substitute teacher?
Yeah, well, look at his career. You want to ask why he's been on a bunch of different teams? Is it because that's what he wants to do? Is it because he thinks, yeah, you know what? I like meeting new people. I like having a good time. And my job is to be a missionary of sorts?
A football missionary.
He's gone everywhere. Yeah. Now he's off in New England.
He did sign a 2-year contract.
That's right. He played 2 years in Miami.
He played.
He had a couple other spots where one other spot.
2.5 years in Miami.
Okay.
2 years, a year and a half in Philly, a year in Las Vegas, a year in Atlanta, a year in Buffalo.
So
he's well traveled.
He'll go 2 years New England, and guess what? He'll go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Until he's done, and then he'll finish with 14 teams, 1 million friends, and a lifetime of memories.
He got out, I think, at the perfect time.
Yeah.
I think he got out at the perfect time because, any wanting him to do more for you or still be an important piece of your offense, I think, could only go down. Like the honeymoon phase could extinguish as, oh, he's wearing no shoes again. Oh, well, he hasn't had a catch in 3 games. It might not be as fun. It might not be as funny in year 2. I don't know if he's not producing.
Fair. And if he had,
I think he got out at the right time.
The other thing is, what if he had signed the deal that the Patriots gave him? He's making
with the Bills.
Yeah. All of a sudden, that becomes now. I mean, whatever. That's such.
It's not like it's a monster. It's 2 years, $9 million worth up to, right? Or $8.5 million.
It's not a lot. It's not a lot. Well, Mack Hollins gone, Josh Palmer in, and also defensive piece.
I don't know what to call him. Swiss Army knife is what I went with in the update.
I mean, if you want to get into the think of him game, think of him as a defensive tackle, think of him as a defensive end, think of him as a linebacker.
I saw a video of him covering DK Metcalf one-on-one and knocked it away.
As a slot defender.
Yep.
Michael Hoecht.
He's like is he here? He's Taysom Hill on defense.
Okay.
There you go.
He was
Taysom Hill on defense.
So Chris Trapasso, who you hear often with the afternoon show and on One Bills Live as well, Michael Hoecht was, maybe you never heard of him, I had not, was Chris Trapasso's number 1 target for the Bills.
Yeah.
And Josh Palmer and Michael Hoecht were both on Eric Turner's list of Cover 1, high on his list. We'll talk with Eric coming up at 8 o'clock this morning. We're loaded. We've got Sal at 7, Paul at 7:30, Eric Turner at 8, Jason Zucker from the Sabres at 9, and then an Ottawa guest at 9:30. So lots to get to today. But the Bills made 2 moves that I think are at positions of need, and then I'm pretty good with. We can begin the argument about what Palmer is soon, and whether or not the Bills are going to need to hunt more at wide receiver because Palmer came in and, well, Hollins left.
Yep. And Cooper's not re-signed. I don't expect it all to re-sign, so therefore I feel like Palmer is kind of my Cooper replacement, and now with Hollins gone, I think I need a Hollins. I don't need to go nuts with that, right? But I need a Hollins replacement.
I can't decide which is which. I can't decide if it probably doesn't come down to something that simple about Palmer being one of the two, but Palmer is
because he's a very different skill set than both of them.
Yes, he's probably what Cooper used to be, which was someone who could beat man coverage.
Right.
So Palmer's good at getting some separation. He wins on the outside, and the Bills didn't have that. He's not the fastest guy, but he does get separation on the outside, and he beats man coverage, something the Bills do not do. The Bills don't have a player that does that, and Josh Palmer can do that. He's 25 years old. They paid him a good amount of money. Like that's a reasonable commitment. They now have 3 receivers that are making modest money: Shakir, Palmer, and Curtis Samuel. I mean, Samuel's making $9 million. It's not much, but it's not street free agent, and it's not draft pick either. These are 3 guys that are veterans that are adding up to whatever a decent number. With Palmer, I mean, he's definitely closer to a wide receiver 3. He's definitely closer to me to the guy you wanted on the roster when you had Diggs and Davis. Get someone else to play the outside who can beat man coverage that you can mix in. And that's great. Like I think it's a solid move. We talked about him. There are plenty of people that identified him as this is a guy that could be a fit. He's from Brampton, Ontario, and now he gets a contract to come to a team where he's probably going to be a bigger part of their offense than he was in L.A., but maybe not by much.
Yeah.
He's definitely not DK Metcalf, and he's definitely not Matthew Golden if they were to find a way to draft him in the first round, where we'd be talking about their new stud receiver. He's a depth piece that is probably a starter and their second best receiver the day he walks in the door, with the hope that maybe Keon Coleman can pass him. But the day he walks in, he's their best outside receiver and their second best receiver overall.
Like he just signed a 3-year deal. Would everyone take his last 3 years with the Chargers and say that's okay? That means there's one big year in there. Well, big by within context. Big for him was what? 72 catches, 769 yards, and 3 touchdowns.
And is that on an offense that runs it all the time? A Greg Roman offense?
That's a couple of years ago.
Okay.
Well, last year in Greg Roman's offense, though, this is maybe more what he's been for 2 years. You're going to get 39 for 584.
Right. Yeah.
Is that going to be enough for him to satisfy the need of? Well, I paid this guy $12 million. He's a man beater, and he plays on the outside. Is that going to feel like that's helping the Bills enough? Because the move for Palmer, to me, isn't about what the number really ends up being at the end. It's he provides a skill set and a need the Bills didn't have. So I'm not really worried about does he have 1,000 yards? Is he the number 2 in this offense? It's more situationally when they're using him. If you're going to have a team like when Baltimore attacked you in the regular season with man coverage and dared your wide receivers to beat them on the outside, and you had nobody that could do it, that to me is why I like the Palmer move. Not that he is going to go for 200 in a game like that, but he might be my number 1 in that game. That game that the defense dares me to beat them one-on-one and get the receivers to get separation, then I got this guy now. And I think that's what they tried. So they tried to do when they signed Cooper. That's what they wanted, wasn't it? That when a team dares my receivers to get open against them one-on-one, I need a guy that can do that. And Cooper did contested catch stuff, which is kind of more of what they had. So I think Palmer's a better fit, and I would expect that he's going to have, he'll have one year that'll look like he did with the Chargers a few years ago. He's got 700 yards. But he's not going to come in and be the Bills' number 1 or probably even number 2 receiver.
No, if you're going to make it a fantasy point, would you feel comfortable rostering him, putting him in a lineup?
It'd have to be a deeper league.
Yeah.
It'd have to be a deeper league. And what I would be doing is taking a flyer on, okay, this guy's got a good skill set, and now he's playing with Josh Allen. And it's kind of still wide open for him, Like if he comes in and looks great, it's right there for you. Go ahead, take it. Like there's an availability here for a highly targeted receiver, I think. So I wouldn't want to rule out that he's got potential to be like a guy that you would start in fantasy football this year. But I wouldn't go into the summer believing that that's likely. It's possible more than it's likely, I think. But I like the player a lot.
8030550. I like it for what it is. I think you're in the same spot. Like, if anybody is writing in, you guys think this guy is so good. Not really. It's just they desperately needed this. They needed this last year. All of last year.
Yeah.
They needed this. They needed this 2 years ago. I mean, they've needed a guy that does this as a depth piece. And again, like, his contract is not huge. It's just paying some money for depth at a position. And Joe Marino has the numbers on this. The Bills have faced more man coverage than any team in the NFL the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Which is bonkers considering you have Josh Allen as your quarterback. Teams don't want to turn their back on him and run in man coverage. And yet they do. And the reason they do is because they do not fear the Bills on the outside. No one has feared the Bills on the outside in 2 years.
Yeah.
So, do they fear Josh Palmer? Maybe a little more. Maybe he gets a little more respect.
I was going to say they might respect Josh Palmer
a little more
than they fear him. But yeah,
if he's able to beat man coverage on the outside with Josh Allen, they can kind of get things on the same page. Well, then the Bills might see less man coverage and might be able to dictate things a little bit better. So it has been years of defenses walking in and saying, like last year would have been a prime example of this. Mack Hollins, Amari Cooper in the state that he's in running go routes, and Keon Coleman. Okay, man him up. Mm-hmm. Not worried. And, of course, they're going to win some reps, and Josh Allen is amazing, so the Bills are still going to make some hay there, but they just haven't had a guy to beat man coverage on the outside, which is a hard job. Line up, beat a guy. Diggs did that for 4 years at an elite level, at least for 3.5 of it, and now they have somebody else. Other than Diggs, what was the last guy they had that did this?
John Brown.
Emmanuel Sanders? John Brown?
That's 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Now.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, Gabe Davis was a role player, a nice piece. He might be a little bit like Davis, a little different, but a little bit like Davis as well.
Yeah.
So
I like I've seen people make the Brown comparison. The one difference is Brown was faster by a good amount, I think. John Brown was faster. But it was, hey, this guy gets open. He's a separator, and I saw a comparison of their numbers. It's actually pretty similar, Palmer and Brown, before they get to the Bills. And then what happened when John Brown got to the Bills? Oh, he had his best season. Now, well, no, maybe it is the same. There was no Diggs that first year that he was here.
Right, it was Brown and Beasley.
Yep.
And Robert Foster. Who else is on that team?
Sure, yes, right.
Maybe.
But he had enough of an avenue there to be a 70-catch, 1,000-yard, 6-touchdown guy. And that, to me, might be the absolute ceiling for Palmer. And then that would be good, and that would be great. And if he did, that would even be probably unlikely. I wouldn't predict right now he'd have a 1,000-yard season, but I think because of what he's good at, I want to be open to the possibility that we're looking back at this contract and going like, okay, that was one of those guys that they bet on getting better here because of Allen and the offense and the opening on the outside, and he did it. I think he reads like a good enough player that there might be more in there than what we saw the last 2 years with the Chargers.
And even if there's not, in the chat we've got he's another Curtis Samuel. He might be, but he does play the outside.
Right.
It's just the biggest key.
I wanted Curtis Samuel on the outside. I wanted Metcalf, I guess, but sure, right.
The Bills have needed. Here's one way I can point, maybe try to drive this home. The Bills have needed help on the outside for so long that it goes back to Khalil Shakir's rookie season when Brandon Beane said he can play on the outside. And we thought, no, he probably can't. And he does not. And that's fine. You don't have to do everything. Palmer does play slot and does play the outside. There's a year there in L.A. with the Chargers where Keenan Allen got hurt, and he played in the slot for Keenan Allen. Then Mike Williams got hurt, and he went and played for Mike Williams outside. So he has versatility, but he plays outside. And the Bills have been, I think, well, first off, super successful. But I think square pegging, round holing receiver for a long time. Whether that's Keon Coleman can play the outside. All right, a lot of people thought he's probably a big slot. Think of Dalton Kincaid like a wide receiver. Okay, well, I mean, not really. This is just a wide receiver that plays wide receiver on the outside, and I don't have to have anybody kind of lie to me about the fact that he plays out there. Curtis Samuel, he could play on the outside. Okay, sure. Some guys take some snaps out there. This guy plays on the outside.
Yep.
Boom. It's a square peg for a square hole. You might not think it's the best square peg, but it is a square peg for a square hole. So I'm happy because someone out there can beat man coverage.
Yep. Yeah, I think it helps them. I won't go crazy with it. I don't think he doesn't change the fabric of their offense, right? I mean, well, he doesn't. He improves it in the ways you're talking about, but he doesn't change the identity of their offense, really. They'll still do everybody eats, I think, right now, as of right now.
Yes.
Like he's not. This is the difference between if you had traded for a DK Metcalf or if you had found your way to T. Higgins somehow. Like that is a move where all right, baby, we're back. Like we're back with. Allen's going to have an all-pro receiver on this football team that's going to be top 10 in the league in all these categories. Like Palmer is a different type of receiver in the one they needed, but he is the same kind of caliber, I guess, of what they've had. He's the same tier.
Yeah, that's right.
He's kind of the same tier, at least the money would say he's the same tier as Shakir, right? Like, it's $12 million a year versus $15 million a year. Like, it's not that far off. From what these two signed for.
I would say that Shakir is, $6 million behind the best strictly slot receivers, whereas Palmer is $20 million behind the best outside guys.
Right, okay.
Shakir got paid, and some thought he'd get paid more because he puts up numbers, but he does it from the slot, and he does it a lot behind the line of scrimmage, and Shakir had the lowest average depth of target in the entire NFL among receivers. He's up there with running backs and tight ends. Mm-hmm. Like, Shakir, obviously, is good. He has just a different job, and the Bills paid him reasonably well.
Mm-hmm. The fact that the money then even is close would speak to how important the job Palmer plays is, right?
Yeah.
That it's an important job that they didn't have a guy for, and that's what the market said, by the way. Like, Darius Slayton signed the exact same contract that he did. We had mentioned how Tutu Atwell went for $10 million back to the Rams.
Diami Brown, $10 million.
$10 million. I mean, Mack Hollins goes for 4 something. Mack Hollins went for 4 point whatever, and he's 7 years older than Josh Palmer, right. And he got that contract. So it was not a heavy receiver market, and this was kind of the ballpark you had to play in.
The Patriots got Mack Hollins. They were shooting for Chris Godwin, among others. In fact, the report is that Godwin left $20 million on the table to not go to New England and stay in Tampa.
New England is just never going to get this receiver. They've been trying for has it been 5 years?
Yeah, I bet $20 million is a bit of an exaggeration on how much he left on the table, but he probably took less to stay in Tampa.
Yeah.
You could say Texas. You could say, I don't want to move. There's plenty there.
Yeah.
But New England is, again, struggling to get the help that they need. They spent a lot of money in free agency. The other guy the Bills got is Michael Hoecht, and this will be an interesting piece. This will, I think, Michael Hoecht potentially brings out the Bobby Babich, Sean McDermott, hey, what can you cook up today? What can you cook up this week? Have you ever seen a player talked about as a linebacker, defensive tackle, defensive end? All three?
No.
Originally, the report I saw was they signed linebacker Michael Hoecht. And I thought, now I get to get on you, huh? Aha, I told you they were going to look for some linebacker help. And then it turns out, actually, no, he's an edge. Oh, okay.
I think Tom Pelissero first reported called him a defensive tackle, and then the next tweet had him as a linebacker. And then, I went to look to see what he plays at everything. So Michael Hoecht last year, he plays 500 snaps at edge. He plays 79 at linebacker. He plays 33 at slot corner. He played 33 snaps at slot corner last year. I mentioned the one play that has been passed around where he covered DK Metcalf in space and got him. So, the one comparison I saw to him is Lorenzo Alexander. And I think maybe Eric Turner was the one who said that, and we'll talk to him later. And that was Lorenzo Alexander. Look back at his career, and he played every position at least a little bit. So maybe that's a decent comparison for this guy. Also, by the way, from Ontario.
Yes.
They're 25 minutes apart, their hometowns.
Not bad. 803-0550. Let's get some phone calls in. Dan, stick with us. We'll get to your call on the other side. 803-0550. How do you like day one? What about day two? A lot of the ideas you might have had are gone. There's still plenty of good free agents left. We'll talk about all the options. We'll talk about who the Bills did get, who they've agreed to terms with at least. Sam Darnold's on the move. Aaron Rodgers maybe today to the Steelers. We'll see about that if that finishes out. So it's been a fun start to the offseason, and we'll chat about it with you. Jeremy and Joe, 803-0550. Jump on the phones. Jump into the bullpen. Give us a comment there. It's already rolling today in the YouTube chat, and we'll hang out here on WGR.
Yesterday, the unofficial start of free agency in the NFL, the legal tampering period. So none of these signings are official yet. They can't be made official until tomorrow. But the Bills reportedly will sign wide receiver Josh Palmer away from the LA Chargers. 3 years, $36 million. Plays on the outside. Had a season of 72 catches a couple of years ago in LA. The Bills also signing from LA, this time the Rams, Michael Hoecht, who's played defensive end, defensive tackle, linebacker, slot corner, has played it all on defense. Mostly plays the edge position. 3 years, up to $24 million. Hoecht signing with the Bills. Both those players, by the way, from Ontario. Mack Hollins is leaving. He's going to New England on a 2-year deal worth just over $8 million. So Hollins to the Patriots. Elsewhere around the NFL, Sam Darnold is going to the Seahawks. 3 years, $100.5 million to become their starting quarterback after trading Geno Smith to the Raiders. Aaron Rodgers is the big name to watch today. The Giants and Steelers both need quarterbacks. Both are reportedly interested in Rodgers. It sounds like the Steelers might be more likely for him at this point. Cooper Kupp released by the Rams. They couldn't find a trade partner for him. The Commanders trade for Texans star left tackle Laramie Tunsil, and that cost them a second, third, and fourth round pick. Sabres in action last night, winning over Edmonton 3-2. Josh Norris got his first point as a Sabre on a game-winning goal by Tage Thompson. Next up, Detroit tomorrow at 7:30. Those are your Paddock Chevrolet sports headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of business.
Now, spinning Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen was at the mercy of needing help from his teammates here, and he got it. Meanwhile, McLeod's to the slot, scores! Alex Tuch! On a great feed from McLeod in the slot, and the Sabres get the lead back. It is 2-1 with 16:08 to go in the second period.
One of your moments of the game brought to you by Firth Jewelers. For all the moments in your life, go forth to Firth. Tage was magical last night. UPL was great. It was a great game. Exciting game, fun game, highlight reel plays. And Dahlin, advanced numbers against McDavid, did pretty well.
The McLeod line
did pretty well.
Ryan McLeod against McDavid. He had like one of the best games all year that anyone's had against McDavid. Like, he came out ahead on shot attempts and expected goals, playing mostly against McDavid. That being said, the Oilers did hit 4 posts last night. Could have very easily gone the other way.
Great opportunity to bring in our senior goaltending correspondent, Owen Parker. Now, Owen, as a goalie, you play and a team hits 4 posts.
Yeah.
Is that
including 3 in the first period?
Yeah.
Is that A, I played my angles perfectly and they had nothing to shoot at? Or is that thank you,
got away with
thank you, Mr. Post.
Yeah, I think that depends on the kind of night you're having.
Okay.
I think last night, that is, UPL had a great night, and he was playing his angles all perfectly. Especially early when you get a few, it can definitely rattle you. But then, depending on kind of how you're feeling and where your head's going, you can kind of go, oh, I'm getting lucky. It must be my night. Yeah. Or you can go, I might be circling the drain here.
One of those saves was so nuts that I wish they didn't show the posts. You know, you're watching the game live, and he's going from his right to left, and it looks like he gets a blocker over on a wide open net, and the crowd goes, bonkers.
Yeah.
And then you turn, it hit the post. Like, don't. You know what? Don't show me the replay. Let me believe he got there.
You usually hear it, though.
This one you didn't.
You didn't hear this one at all?
No, this one of the posts sounded like it hit him.
Okay.
But it hit the post. So.
Sometimes you get those dead thunky posts.
There was one of those.
It can throw you off.
So, well, the Sabres win and break their losing streak. We'll talk with an Ottawa guest because Dylan Cousins last night had... First off, Ottawa won a very important game in a playoff race, and the goalie that won was Linus Ullmark, and the guy that scored the game-winning goal was Dylan Cousins. So welcome back to this routine, which is whatever. It's fine.
You just don't have to worry. You don't have to worry.
Watch the Cousins goal for one thing. It's a power play goal. It's not like he did anything unbelievable.
The net was wide open.
Yes, but
he did, yeah.
Watch his reaction, and even if you're mad at Dylan Cousins, you're going to feel... I felt really happy for him. Like...
Yeah.
In home building, deadline acquisition, it's Big Bear Bernier scoring a goal for the Sabres. In Ottawa, they must be thrilled about how it's gone, and they're in the thick of a race, and he scored their game-winning goal.
I've seen one reason they are in the thick of the race. I saw a couple of Ottawa people, like Allmark is playing amazing.
Well, there you go.
Like they traded a first-round pick to get him, and he's living up to it.
803-0550. On the Bills moves, Milton Williams, big deal with the Patriots. One of the number one defenders on the market, a penetrator from the interior. He goes to New England.
Josh Sweat to Arizona.
Yeah,
so that's another big move. It's off the table.
Josh Sweat for money that you probably would have paid. I mean, it's less than $20 million per year.
Yeah.
J.C. Horn gets a deal with the Panthers that probably shows you that Christian Benford's number is going to be big, because Horn is not a super accomplished, decorated corner. He's a good young corner. And that might be Christian Benford that's going to be getting $20 million in that neighborhood. So we'll see. Get some calls in as well. Jeremy and Joe, good Tuesday morning. Dan in North Tonawanda is up. Hey, Dan, good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. I'm still trying to understand this whole Palmer move. I mean, from everything that I can see, if I want to do like a Bills comparison, I mean, the closest production level I can come up with is like a 2022 Isaiah McKenzie type player. And I thought that is what Curtis Samuel was supposed to be. A speedy guy who can get separation, and I don't know if it's just because of the injury or what, but to me, we already had that guy on the team. And why we're paying $36 million for him when we could have had Mack Hollins for I mean, if we're going to play this, it's got a lot of vibes of this, like Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers playing the Moneyball routine as opposed to just giving him the weapon, like just refusing to give him the weapon. Ever since Diggs left, that seems like what we're doing. And I'm trying to wrap my head around it, and I'm having a really hard time doing it.
Fair enough.
We're gonna go with 2s and 3s. I mean, I don't know enough about the guy to completely trash on him, but he's definitely at best a 2, ideally a 3. Mm-hmm. But if we're gonna be rolling out there with 2s and 3s, I don't get how you're going to get any better when you're going against the likes of now, for example, in Pittsburgh, they've got Pickens and now Metcalf.
Yep.
I mean, you're everybody else around you is getting better and you're staying the same. That's what I don't understand.
Thanks, Dan. I appreciate a lot of what you just said, especially the part about everyone out there is getting better and you're staying the same. I like the Palmer signing, and it's to me, like, let's go in order of what you said. It's not McKenzie because McKenzie played the slot. It's not Curtis Samuel, who best plays inside and in the backfield.
Yeah.
The key designation is that this is a boundary receiver, and they have neglected that position badly for 5 years. I want to say 5 years.
Since they traded for Diggs?
Diggs was very good at it, but even he wasn't like an X. He's more the Z often. If people want to care about
since they traded for him, what's their biggest move on the outside?
Their big. How about just their biggest move since trading for him at receiver? It's Keon Coleman, right. Drafting a guy in the second round,
who we're still not even sure that's where he's
and they're a little bit
should be playing.
Right, they may be worried about it. The point overall, though, about staying the same, not giving him the number one weapon. I watched Josh Norris and Hayden Winks break down this move and what it means for the Bills, the good things about Palmer, and maybe some shortcomings in what it is. And they referred to him as a really nice player we like a lot, probably a receiver 3, and for some reason, like they kind of, this was their take, the Bills really look like a team that does not want to have a guy at the top of the pecking order. Is that a good idea? I don't think so. They did score 31 points. It's, to me, an endless conversation. You kind of go in a circle. It's chicken or the egg. Guys, how could you be mad? They scored 30 points a game, 31 points a game last year. Had their best offense in team history. I think, imagine how much better it could have been. That's how I look at it. I look at it as, why are we settling for what it was? I think it actually could continue to be better with a freak show out there, somebody amazing. And it really isn't anymore. And this is another thing. How many wins are they going to get next season? I don't care. Are they going to win the Super Bowl? Mm-hmm. What's more important next season? How many points they score per game or what they do on the final drive on the road in Kansas City? What's more important is the final drive.
Yeah.
And the final drive against Kansas City last year when they needed it the most, they're throwing screen passes because no one can beat man coverage down the field.
Yeah.
So it is a specified need that they had long neglected, and their draft pick of Coleman was not going to fix this. He can play a role, but he's just not exactly what this was supposed to be, and Palmer is a little bit better there. He's not their burner. He's a
He's a
4-5 guy that gets open.
Yeah.
So the draft might still bring you a third-round pick that is your 4-4, 4-3 kind of speed guy.
Right, and there's a spot for that in the depth chart, really.
Yes.
Just to fill in for what Hollins does. Or just to fill his spot. You would be doing different things. Hollins, though, ran routes down the field a lot, right? Even though he wasn't a burner.
Right.
He ran routes down the field. So that's the other thing that, sure, you can say, if Norris and Winks are saying, like, the Bills feel like a team that doesn't want a guy at the top. I mean, as of now, it does look like that. But the other thing about Palmer is Palmer's not so good or so expensive that he really completely prevents me from doing something else. Like, he doesn't stop you. If there's a receiver you really like in the second round.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you're going to be at the end of the second round, right? And there's a receiver there that you really like. I don't think you're going, nah, I can't do that. I just paid Josh Palmer $12 million a year. That's not a lot anymore. So, to me, it's kind of the perfect level if you want something else to still happen. It's the perfect level of receiver that they signed. I want someone at the top, sure, and I think it would have helped them a lot if they had found their way to DK Metcalf, for instance. And I also don't want to just assume that they're not going to want that. How many big-name receivers have really changed hands since they traded Diggs?
Metcalf
is one.
This is where
we thought Ayuk was going to, but he has not.
He still might.
Like that's the other part of it is they're really. I could probably count on. I could go and probably find a couple that I'm forgetting about, but I bet I could count on one hand the amount of opportunities they've had that we would have said, "Oh, that's putting a guy right at the top of the depth chart."
Would Hollywood Brown classify for that?
Not really. I don't think so. He would have been kind of like Palmer. He would. He might you think he's better, but that is he's providing a role for me. But I'm not. He's not. Number one receiver, 100 target guy anymore.
No. I mean, those guys are really hard to come by, of course. Like, you would have to trade for Garrett Wilson or Chris Olave or a healthy Ayuk.
And that's what I'm talking about. Like, I'll believe if Metcalf, I guess they didn't trade for. When a guy like that is available and they pass on it, like that to me is more they don't want a guy at the top.
A good way to say this is, and again, we talk about receiver a lot, but you're a team, not just the Bills. You want one. This is your point. Where do you get one? How do you do it? You've got to draft one and hope it works out. How did Jacksonville get theirs? They drafted him. Brian Thomas Jr. looks like that he's it. The Giants get theirs. They drafted him. And drafting late in the first round, let's say that Brandon Beane wants a guy like this. He wants his next Diggs. How do you even get that? It's not easy to do. They're not available. It's the same as a premier pass rusher. You can't just go out and get one. Oh, Myles Garrett's available. All right, let's make that happen. No, he didn't move. Right. Okay. It's slim pickings at the very top of that skill set. So thanks, Dan. I think, like I said, I think everything you said is fair. It comes down to expectations, and Palmer was a reasonable expectation. One thing about the money on Palmer, you pointed out, like $12 million a year average. We'll see what it really is, the real numbers. Mm-hmm. Hollywood Brown re-signed with Kansas City for 11, and Jeremy Fowler was reporting that the Bills, he believed, and the Chiefs believed, that the Bills wanted Hollywood Brown. They don't get Hollywood Brown, who would have filled this role pretty much, I think, like a vertical guy, outside guy. Maybe he's a 2-for-1. I'm kind of surprised that Brown got as little as he did, but he was hurt most of last year. Anyway, 803-0550. Michael Hoecht will be really interesting to talk about. We'll get to Sal at the top of the hour on Michael Hoecht.
Just to round out this conversation, I asked, how many opportunities have they had? So since the Bills traded Diggs, there have been 10 wide receiver trades in the NFL. Metcalf is now the most expensive at a second-round pick. The next two were Devontae Adams and Amari Cooper.
Yeah. So they got
2 trades that the Bills, one made and the other one we think they wanted to make.
Yep. That's right. And Devontae Adams, this time around, they might have been interested, but he went to L.A., and that looks like a nice fit for him. 803-0550, 1-888-550-2550 to join us on the beautiful day on the way. Free agency rolling, and lots and lots of juicy stuff in the NFL. The Patriots, the Jets go with Justin Fields.
Yeah.
Big money for him. Starting quarterback money. I'm at some point I'm ready for my grouchy, grumpy old man rant about people getting mad about money getting spent in the NFL. Some of these people, I'm ready for a small rant about it. That'll be fun. Jeremy and Joe, 803-0550. Jump on with us here on WGR. Jeremy White here for Roswell Park, and with a message to make sure you schedule your colorectal cancer screening. March is colon and rectal cancer screening month and colorectal cancer awareness month. It's a disease that often shows no symptoms until the cancer can be advanced. Screening can save lives. So Roswell Park and the men of WGR encourage you to talk to your primary care doctor about your risk. I did this. I am 45 and turned 45, had a physical, asked a question, what should I do? And you've got a couple different options, and I went and got screened, and I'm good to go, which is good peace of mind, and you should do it too. Take advantage of whatever, the opportunity, this message. Remember to do it. Just get it done and take care of your health because March is Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. Find out your risk factors, get your screening options, find out what's right for you. Visit roswellpark.org/colorectal to learn more. That's roswellpark.org/colorectal because at age 45, it's time to get screened, and maybe even 40, depending on risk factors. So get it done. roswellpark.org/colorectal. Time for the shorts report because it's going to be how hot today? Oh, well, hot might be a little. It's going to be 55 today. It was nice in the sun yesterday. It's currently 44.
Okay.
All right, gentlemen. Shorts report.
No.
It's going to be a no from me.
I'm
Yes.
not wearing shorts. I'm wearing thin pants, but not shorts.
Wow.
You're wearing shorts?
I'm wearing shorts.
You are?
Is that the first time this year?
I wore shorts yesterday because it was so nice out. I went ran some errands and
Yeah, shorts.
I'm wearing shorts.
I thought about it, but I didn't. I'm like, short sleeve and shorts feels a little aggressive.
Well,
I would do one of the two.
I
Like
do
if
have
I could have worn shorts and wore a hoodie, but
I have a quarter zip. I went quarter zip and shorts.
yeah, that's fine.
Also known as short pants to some in the chat. Should I show skin on the chat? Really drive our ratings here?
Just
I got legs.
Put the leg
I'm
up on
showing
the
leg.
table.
I'm showing leg today.
I wouldn't even be flexible enough to do that.
Good morning, Jeremy and Joe. 803-0550, our phone number. Free agency underway. Yeah, Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers could have a deal in place by today.
Justin Fields to the Jets.
Kyle Juszczyk let go by the Niners. He has no plans to retire. Tell me Joe Brady doesn't love the idea of a versatile fullback. Come on.
I'm good.
Reggie
I'm
Gilliam's
good.
not signed yet. Reggie Gilliam is not signed. And Juszczyk, come on. I'm just putting it out there.
Is he going to cost me like $5 million, $6 million? Should I not care about that?
That I don't know.
I don't know how much room they have for the big moves. And his last contract was 2 years, $9.1 million. So he's coming off a $4.5 million a year contract. So I don't need to spend extra money on a fullback, please. And then have to hear about how he's like a wide receiver because he can run routes outside.
In one of the greatest moments in sports history, Nathan McKinnon scored his 1,000th point for the Colorado Avalanche. The bench is cleared to celebrate the moment because he had 1,000 points, and it was really great. Everyone is happy in the building. It was awesome. What a moment for the sport. The goal was called back on an offside challenge.
I like how the clip I saw on Twitter, I never saw the offside challenge review replay. The clip is all the Avalanche players pouring off the bench to congratulate him. And then the clip ends as they're all turning around to look back to center ice. And like something's happening in the clip, but you don't know what. And then the clip ends. And then I guess he did get called back. Yep. Wait, listen, we needed that to happen.
He did get his 1,000th point, but yes, we needed that.
We needed that to happen so that we alert all the coaches. You should not. The NHL needs to send a memo to the league today that the moment Ovechkin scores his goal, under no circumstance should you challenge this, or we're gonna make your life a living hell.
All you got to do is when Ovechkin's within 3 goals of the record, you just issue a league-wide memo that says the replay system is down, like it's coming from the IT department.
Yes.
The replay's down. We'll let you know when it's back up.
Yeah.
There will be no challenges until further notice.
Yep.
Beautiful moment for the NHL, as they all are. 803-0550. Sabres black and red last night.
Yeah.
Tage with a pretty sick goal. Pretty nice.
He had two pretty nice goals.
He did.
The second one especially I thought was really nice.
Yes, indeed.
He's back 47 goal pace, which is what he was 2 years ago.
We'll get to Sal Capaccio coming up top of the hour. Paul Hamilton, 7:30. We have names the Bills could still be going for, names to watch for today. And we'll get Sal's thoughts on the Josh Palmer signing, the Mack Hollins departure, the Michael Hoecht addition also to the Bills defense, all coming up here on WGR. Jeremy White here for Riverfront Auto Sales. If you're in the market for a vehicle, Riverfront, the place to go. I get my cars, trucks, everything from Riverfront. Every couple of years, I'm trading in and going something newer because, your needs change. And Riverfront's been around for over 45 years. I've been buying vehicles from Riverfront for 15 of those. And you don't find better deals on pre-owned vehicles anywhere else. And buying pre-owned itself, just do that. You're saving lots of money, tens of thousands of dollars on a vehicle when it's a year old. And a lot of the vehicles you can get from Riverfront are still under factory warranty. We have a car that's got very little mileage on it. We got from Riverfront. That's like 20,000 miles on it and still under factory warranty. So when you're buying vehicles from Riverfront, you're getting like new at pre-owned prices, and what a bargain that is on its own. Also, this month, they're continuing their double your tax refund promotion up to $2,000. So $500 gets you $1,000, and $1,000 is $2,000 toward any vehicle on the lot. Riverfront has guaranteed credit approval. No matter your situation, they'll work with you. Visit Riverfront Auto Sales today, 1379 Niagara Street, or online at riverfrontautosales.com.
Tons of money being spent in the NFL yesterday with the legal tampering period opening up, the unofficial start of free agency. None of these signings are yet official. They will be once free agency begins, most likely. Bills reportedly are signing wide receiver Josh Palmer to a 3-year deal worth up to $36 million. Palmer, formerly of the Chargers, couple of years ago had a 72-catch season, been in the 30s the last 2 years for receptions. So that's their move at receiver, as Mack Hollins, by the way, departs for New England on a 2-year deal worth just over $8 million total. On defense, the Bills reportedly are signing Michael Hoecht, who has played defensive end, defensive tackle, linebacker, even slot corner, mostly, though, at defensive end. 3 years, up to $24 million for Hoecht, formerly of the LA Rams. Elsewhere around the NFL, some quarterback news. Sam Darnold is going to Seattle, 3 years, $100.5 million. Justin Fields signs with the New York Jets. He'll be their starting quarterback. Aaron Rodgers is reportedly deciding between the Steelers and the Giants, and sounds like the Steelers might be more likely at this point. Could get some news on that today. Commanders trade for star left tackle Laramie Tunsil from the Texans for a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 7th round pick. Cooper Kupp released by the Rams. He couldn't find a trade partner for him. Carolina signs cornerback J.C. Horn. Big money for him. 4 years, $25 million per year. So if you're thinking about Christian Benford's contract, Horn just signed for $25 million per year. Sabres in action last night. They beat the Oilers 3-2, and next up is Detroit tomorrow at 7:30 in Detroit. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update, celebrating 90 years of business.
Free agency technically opens tomorrow. We're in the legal negotiating period, and a lot of players have agreed to terms. We'll talk about the Bills' agreements and departure as well. Only one departure, though, Mack Hollins. The rest, I didn't see anybody else. Sal Capaccio joining us on the Wester Hotline as we get set to talk about it. Good morning, Sal.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good. You also have your State of the Bills series continuing at WGR550.com with the safety position, which is something we can get into today with free agency. So, rolling through your State of the Bills series. Is this the final installment?
I will do one more, but that'll be specialists. But honestly, guys, there's not a lot to talk about there because everybody's under contract, and that includes their longs. Actually, punter, I guess, is one that will be talked about. They do need a punter. They have a punter on the roster, actually. Yeah, Jake Camarda is the only punter on the roster right now. I believe he's also might be Canadian as well. I think, speaking of signing these Canadian guys, I think he spent time up in CFL at least, and then he was with the Buccaneers. But Reed Ferguson, Tyler Bass, and then obviously Brandon Codrington. But I did post safeties today. Safety's an interesting one because there is a really good debate, I think, amongst Bills fans about whether or not they should pursue another safety that would go on top of Taylor Rapp and Cole Bishop. I don't believe the Bills will do that. It's possible, for sure. I think that would cost money that I think they don't want to have to spend because they know they have Taylor Rapp, and I think they're very confident in Cole Bishop, but I do think they have to have depth at the position. But it's an interesting spot because a lot of fans think they need to sign someone on top of the guys they have.
Well, and I think most of the lists I've seen this morning, Sal, about who's the top free agents remaining going into the second day of the tampering period, it's usually quarterbacks at the top, and the top non-quarterback I've seen is Javon Holland.
Yeah, I heard a lot of rumblings about the Jets being interested in him.
Okay.
Very interesting, but man, he's going to cost some money. And again, I think, and that's fine. I really like him. I think he's a fantastic player. I'm just looking at it from a Bills perspective of what do the Bills think they need to do with the roster. It just feels to me like Taylor Rapp is entrenched as a starter, right? I know some fans don't think he is. I think he is. You're getting him. He was a good player last year. He was steady. He really, I think, played a bigger role and was a better player than a lot of people gave him credit for or thought he'd be. And he's also on a very cheap deal. He's counting like $3.5 million on the salary cap this coming year. And then the question is next to him, Cole Bishop. And I just think, even though McDermott, for sure did not just want to hand him the job at the combine, it almost went the other way. Like, well, we'll see. I think that's because that's the way he talks about young players, but I think they're very confident in Cole Bishop. But I wouldn't be totally surprised. I just think it's not an area where they want to focus a lot of attention to spend money in free agency, and maybe they go out and they get another young guy or two guys to kind of come in and fill some depth. They will have to make some moves there, though.
You can check out State of the Safety position at WGR550.com. Sal, how about the moves from yesterday? Let's start with Josh Palmer. That's the first move, and I think it's it's funny. This is how free agency works, right? You sign a guy that's a mid-level guy and fits a need, and you're going to have some fans that are upset that it's not a better player. But for what Palmer is supposed to be for this team, how do you like the fit? How do you like the term, the money, and why does it make sense for the Bills?
Well, I'll just start with this. Free agency is about fit. That's what it is. The best teams operate by fitting in and constructing their roster for what they need around their roster. That's what free agency is about, especially teams that are as close as the Bills to winning a championship. This is not a complete tear down, rebuild, obviously. They're not just going out there and spending a whole bunch of money to bring guys in and say, we need to win some more games. That's not what they're trying to do. The Bills are right there. They're knocking on the door. They need the guys to fill in the little pieces that are missing on the roster to help them get to the next step. And I think everybody would agree that one of the huge things that was missing last year, very evident, we talked about it every Monday, it seemed like, on this show, guys, is they had a lot of trouble beating man-to-man defense. I remember specifically after the Ravens game, this started. The Ravens game was the first one. They go down to Baltimore, they lose the way they did. And I remember coming out here in the morning with you guys, and I said, guys, I was on the field, and they could not get open. They just couldn't get open. They could not get open man-to-man. And you know what the Ravens did? They said, we're going to challenge you because we know you can't get open. We're going to challenge you. We're going to come up. We're going to be physical with you. We're going to get in your face. Your receivers can't beat us, and then we're going to get after your quarterback. And I said to you guys that morning, I was almost afraid for Josh Allen's health if that continued because they really beat him up, and teams had a blueprint now against the Bills. That was a theme all year. Now, the Bills got a little better at it. They did some things. They had a really nice offensive line. They obviously brought in Amari Cooper later. That didn't go great, but it was okay for them. And, that was still something they had to do. Well, here comes Josh Palmer. This man is a man-to-man outside beater. You can look at his speed and say he's not fast enough. That's fine. He's not slow. 4.5 isn't slow. It's also not blazing fast, but that's not his game. His game is to win with route running, to win when he gets to the top of the route, to navigate, to turn around, to find the little nuances, and then to win when the ball is thrown towards him, the way he can catch the ball with someone around him. Don't look at his separation numbers because he's not going to separate when he's always playing man-to-man in the outside. People are going to be near him, but he catches the ball with people near him. But he is going to separate based on his role compared to other people who do the same thing, if that makes sense. He's better at that thing than a lot of other people are at that thing. As far as the money's concerned, I have my reservations. I mean, $12 million a year, I think that's what it is, right?
Yep.
Is quite. I mean, we'll see what the actual money is, guys. We don't know until it comes out, but that's what the high end being reported. Sure, I will tell you, man, that you got to use him now. Now, to me, it becomes on Joe Brady now. You didn't find a way to use Curtis Samuel last year, and some of that was Samuel's injury. He had a turf toe mostly all the year, dealing with it. I get it. It did. $8 million a year wasn't extravagant, but he really was never able to be a real part of the offense. They have this everybody eats mentality. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think Josh Palmer is going to be eating, 80 targets. I don't think that's the case. Maybe. He's still probably not going to be the number one option in the offense. It's probably Khalil Shakir. So at the end of the year, you might have fans say the same thing. But he absolutely fills a need the Buffalo Bills have as they're constructing a roster to fill out the parts that they need to get to the next step.
Yeah, to me, Sal, it's about those matchups where you mentioned it, like the Ravens. If a team is going to try to hammer you with man and dare you to beat them, right, maybe Palmer doesn't have an 80-catch season, but does he have 3 games for me over the course of the year where he has 8 catches?
Right.
And it's not just...
I think I said targets, but that's what I mean. He's not going to be a monster catch guy, but he's going to make probably catches in games and in moments and matchups, as you say, Joe, that you're going to want him to be very relevant in.
It's not just, Sal, you mentioned the Ravens. Joe Marino had the numbers of the Locked On Bills podcast. The Bills in the last 2 seasons have faced more man coverage than any other team. And that's with Josh Allen as a quarterback that can run when you turn your back, and they still don't respect the Bills receivers for 2 years. So that's where Palmer fits in. All right, I feel like I want to ask about Mack Hollins and then ask about the collective of the 2 moves and put that in with Cooper. Where are the receivers? If you go just the timeline of it. Oh, Palmer's here. Great. Palmer and probably Mack Hollins, and Palmer's your Cooper replacement. And sure, it's a lateral move maybe for what Cooper is now. Now that Hollins is gone, Sal, are we right back to, all right, they need another receiver in this mix?
First of all, let me say I'm just as surprised as a lot of people about Mack Hollins. I really believed he would come back to the Bills. I know for sure that him and his family really loved being in Buffalo, and I think the Bills really enjoyed having him here. To me, and I don't know this yet, haven't talked to anybody since this all went down. My sense is that the price got a little pricey for the Bills. They had Mack Hollins for a very low deal last year, $2 million. He signed for what could be up to $10 million for over 2 years with the New England Patriots. It's going to be at least 8, I think. So probably got a little pricey for the Bills. And then when they signed Josh Palmer, they're like, okay, we already spent 12 on him essentially. And Mack Hollins is probably looking and going, wait a minute now, where am I here? Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, Curtis Samuel, Josh Palmer, like where do I fit in? And he has a better opportunity to play in New England. And look, I think maybe more than anything, too, let's remember, he played with Josh McDaniels when he was in Vegas. And I think he actually did pretty well there under Josh McDaniels. Had a nice year. So, there's a relationship there. So I think that's how that probably went down. And, of course, Mack Hollins, a fan favorite, so it's tough to lose him. Yeah, they're going to have to add to wide receiver. Look, just on sheer numbers, they have 7 on the roster right now. They're probably going to add at least 6 more before training camp, to be quite honest with you guys. Does that all have to be in the draft and undrafted free agents? No. There's going to be a couple other guys out there that have professional experience, guys that are, free agents right now with other teams. There's no doubt about that. Amari Cooper is a free agent. I'd be stunned right now as I sit here if the Bills bring back Amari Cooper. You know who Amari Cooper is? He's the new Josh Palmer, to be quite honest with you. Like, isn't that what Amari Cooper's game was? Not the fastest guy in the world, but a guy that can beat man coverage on the outside, and he can do it with route running. Like, that's what he is. And I'm not saying that Josh Palmer is Amari Cooper. Like, the production obviously is not the same. But isn't that style of the game the same thing they just signed?
He might have more than Cooper has right now. I mean, otherwise, I don't know what Cooper's going to get. I don't know how much.
Right.
But
I think the numbers back up that if you even remember his biggest plays with the Bills, they were contested catches. So he can make an impact doing that, but his days to me of getting open one-on-one like that are probably, like, I kind of view the Palmer move as an upgrade. Not like anything dramatic, but if we're comparing to what Cooper was with the Bills, and it's the separation and the man beating, like I almost feel like Palmer could be an upgrade.
Yeah, I hear you on that. And for this year, and my point was, I'm not comparing their careers, obviously. Amari was very good, even young Amari, early in his career, is very good. So I'm not comparing their careers, but at that point, he is kind of a Cooper replacement and probably an upgrade in that regard at this point in time in both of their careers. Okay, so you look down the roster. So we all know they have Shakir, Coleman, Palmer, Samuel, KJ Hamler, Tyrell Shavers, Jalen Virgil. Maybe Tyrell Shavers becomes your Mack Hollins replacement. This is a guy that we saw his first ever NFL touch, took it to the house, really nice play. But he's a guy that we all thought had a really nice training camp, really nice preseason. He can play on the outside, and he's a bigger body, he's taller, and he can play on special teams. He can be a gunner. And that what Mack Hollins did for you a little bit. So I think if you're actually looking for a Mack Hollins replacement, it might already be on your roster in Tyrell Shavers.
The other agreement not yet signed, Michael Hoecht, Sal, who is what does he do? Everything? Is he Does he play corner? Does he play safety? I mean, he does stuff in the front 7. That's basically how we can look at him. Former Rams player who signs a decent deal and gives the Bills. Would it be wrong to say he gives them a bit of a wild card kind of player?
Yeah, this is really interesting to me. First of all, let me ask you guys. I put these guys on my spreadsheet, on my roster. Mm-hmm. I really had to think about where to put him. Where would you put him if you were me? What position? Under what position on your spreadsheet roster? Where should I put him?
This is like what position should Taysom Hill be in your fantasy league? He should be to at least be edge or tackle. Like if you could put like a D-line category. But if I'm looking at his snap cell, it does look like he plays more. Like, do you do by edge, by the way, or do you defensive end and linebacker?
I have DE/edge as one category. I have DT and I have LB.
I'd probably put him there just because that's where he plays the most. But I mean, even that, like, it's There's a
DT
solid
edge?
chunk at other places.
DE edge, I mean?
Yeah,
Do you
DE
put him at
edge,
defensive end
I
edge?
think. Yeah.
That's what I did. I put him at edge because what I really think is it's not where he's played. I swear I think he'll play for the Bills more than anything.
Okay.
Right.
He is,
so
for an edge, Sal, he's huge, right?
Yeah, he's big.
I guess.
Oh,
wait,
yeah, listen.
I can't even say that because sometimes he's 3'11", sometimes he's 260. So I guess I can't even.
That's
because,
funny.
Right? He's played these different positions, but also at different sizes.
Well, yeah, and listen, I know he's not the exact same size. In that regard, he's kind of like Dwan Smoot, who can play inside and outside, right? Where you need a guy who can play a little bit of both. He's a bigger guy who can play on the outside. You feel comfortable with that. And Dwan Smoot actually is a much bigger body, 264. Although this guy, he's been on? He's been up to. Oh no! Wait a minute! No, what is his size? Let me go get it right now.
Pro Football Focus
I just had it here
for
a second.
List him at 310, 6'4", 310.
Right.
But he's also played
sorry,
at
I was looking at something
267.
Okay. There you go. 267. Wait, 6'4", 267. Because I was thinking about this. 6'3", 264 for Juwan Smoot, right? So he actually becomes, in that regard, the inside-outside guy as your Juwan Smoot replacement. The difference is, this guy, as you said, he can morph. He's like a transformer, right? I mean, it's like, where do you want me to be? What do you want me to be today? I could be inside. I could be outside. I can be a defensive end. I can linebacker. I can drop in coverage. One thing I would be confident in saying, he's not going to play pure linebacker for the Bills because he's not a true off-the-ball linebacker like a Terrell Bernard or a Matt Milano. The Bills roll with two linebackers. He's not a Mike and he's not a Will. When he plays linebacker, it's more on the outside, it's more on the edge, it's more off the ball. But if you need him to do that, you can. It also reminded me of, you guys remember when the Bills signed Lorenzo Alexander years ago and we had the same conversation?
Yeah. What position is he? Yeah.
Lorenzo Alexander played offensive line and defensive line before going to linebacker and doing all different things that he did in defensive end, whatever. So, the reason why I say is a super interesting signing. So I think this is a bit of a departure for what the Bills do a lot of times, guys. The Bills don't really, they love versatility, but generally the versatility is you kind of know, okay, this guy's going to be your safety linebacker tweener. Right? This guy's going to be your edge defensive tackle, can kick inside, outside. They love versatility. This is a totally different kind of versatile player where, I mean, I don't know who he replaces and when, but they're going to have a lot of options to do that during the game because of what you said. Like, can't remember a player the Bills have had really where exactly and when is he going to line up somewhere? This is like almost on offense picking, I don't know, is this like a Dalton Kincaid, I guess, right? You draft him and say, think of him as a wide receiver, Jeremy, right?
Yeah.
Like you could line him up. You could flex him out. And they love versatility. We all know that. And I'll be the first to tell you that. I'm saying this is the different kind of versatile. And the other thing is, if you told me that they were going to sign a defensive player on day one of free agency, I would have thought it'd be a big, like, space-eating defensive tackle or a pure edge rusher. Now, he is more pure edge rusher than a space-eating defensive tackle, but he's all these different things. I find it fascinating. He did have 6 sacks 2 years ago, and then he was only down to 3 last year. In that 6-sack season, he actually started all 17 games. One thing about him I really do like as well, he has played every single game all 4 years of his NFL career. Mm-hmm. He's been available, which is very big for the Bills. What they like to have, guys that are available. He is a guy who's from Ontario. He has only played in the NFL. He's an undrafted free agent out of Brown University, by the way, an Ivy League school. So he's smart. Everything I read about him is he's a dog. Like he's kind of a guy that you just love having around, right, in your locker room. Very high energy. He reminds me of the athleticism that Connor McGovern had that we talked about when he was signed as well, where he could play center, he could play guard, he even played a little fullback for the Dallas Cowboys. So I wonder if they have a specific position they see him as, or if they're really going to move him around the board like, should I say, a chess piece.
Yeah. His relative athletic score checks out with what the Bills like, a 9.93. And elite athleticism, explosion, agility, all that. Chris Trapasso pointed out that his pressure rate at defensive edge has been 11% the last 2 years. As Joe mentioned in the update, he played slot defender, which is
find the video of him covering DK Metcalf and knocking the ball
away. And it's
away.
not just one play. 33 snaps as a slot defender, a bunch of snaps at linebacker. Right, so chess piece. He'll be one of the most interesting guys to watch at training camp. Sal, like every once in a while, how are they going to use this guy? What are they doing with this guy? So it's interesting. As we turn the page, Sal, to...
Wait, can I say one more thing?
Sure, yeah.
he also plays a lot of special teams, and he blocked 3 kicks last year.
Right.
He blocked 3 kicks last year. He blocked 2 field goals and a PAT last year.
Yeah.
Did he do it by jumping over the center? I feel like all we're hearing about him is he might be capable of that too.
I don't know. Yeah, but think about that. I mean, that's somebody you think, okay, we're going to also put him on special teams. He's going to play for us there, and he kind of fills a need, as you're, throughout your roster.
He, by the way, what I read is like middle of the pack and all the pass rushing stuff.
Very good against the run.
Top level, like rush grades and numbers, whatever. Between him and I guess Palmer too, because of the money, Sal. Like we've talked so much about a big name defensive end this offseason. Is anything the Bills did yesterday with contracts make you think that a big ticket item, if it late falls in their lap, is now off the table?
Well, let me give you some names on that, because that's what I wanted to get to with Sal next. Was if you want a big ticket defensive end, who's out there? Is Zadarius Smith?
It's still Hendrickson, but
it's Hendrickson in a trade,
and then Smith, yeah.
And maybe if you want interior, Charles Amenahu. I've also got Jonathan Allen, of course, from the Commanders. So there are some pieces out there, Sal. What do you think about that? Big ticket defensive end still in the mix, and more free agent signings today potentially in the mix?
There's always a way, guys. There's always a way. If you really want to do it, you can. And listen, I'll say this again because we don't know. It really depends on what the salary cap money is. If there's a bigger ticket defensive end, does it have to be a guy that you sign to a longer-term deal? Can it be a one-year deal and you've been saving up some money this year by structuring these contracts? Greg Rousseau's contract, he was going to make $13.5 million. They moved it down to just 5 this year and 11 next year. Like they're saving money these next 2 years on the salary cap. We don't know the Bernard numbers yet. I'm sure that's going to come in the same way. Same thing they did with Shakir. So there's going to be some money here if they want. They can figure out a way to have some money. They could still play in that realm if you want. We'll see how it is, but we don't know the exact numbers. So Palmer and Hoecht as well. Like, we hear these numbers. Palmer, $12 million. It's sticker shock for a lot of people. Folks, wait till we know the exact details. It could very well be that he signed, and for this year he's going to make, $5-6 million and count maybe 6 on the cap or something like that. And then next year it's a tick higher, but you can get out of it after 2 years, and there's not as much guaranteed. So let's see where the money falls for all these guys. But I would think if they want to, they can always find a way to do that. Same thing on the interior. You talked about Jonathan Allen. Calais Campbell still out there. Javon Hargrave. He's a little older now, but I will tell you, years ago, I knew the Bills were interested in Javon Hargrave. That was when he went, I think, from Pittsburgh to Philadelphia at the time, I think. So there's still some guys out there. We'll see. Sebastian Joseph Day is a guy that a lot of people have always felt that could fit for the Bills. But they're going to have to sign guys. I mean, look, they can't just fill out the rest of the roster, again, only with draft picks and undrafted free agents. I have them at 58 active players right now after yesterday's move. They have to get to 90 before training camp.
Sal Capaccio on the Western Hotline. Sal, we'll talk again tomorrow, I'm sure, because, more stuff in the NFL today. Do you have any non-Bills move you found to be the most interesting?
I came back from the Combine saying I thought the Pittsburgh Steelers might be the most interesting team that I was hearing about at the Combine and what's going to happen, only because who knows what's going to happen. And I think yesterday's still very interesting for the Pittsburgh Steelers, the quarterback carousel, that whole group right there. I just kept listening yesterday. X was down yesterday. Twitter was down. So I turned it on the TV side. I was listening to Schefter and everybody talk about how there's basically 3 teams, the Jets, the Giants, and the Steelers, and there's 3 quarterbacks, Justin Fields, Aaron Rodgers, and Russell Wilson. And one's going to go one, the other one's going to go the other, and the third one's going to go there. And my thought kept being, well, is this up to, is there a hierarchy here? Is one of the 3 the most coveted? Or is there a preferred landing spot for the 3 here? Well, we know now Justin Fields is at the Jets. That's super interesting. The Bills will face Justin Fields. I think, look, I give Aaron Glenn and the Jets credit. I think they're trying to do it right this time, to be honest with you. But I think they're taking a step back before they can take a step forward. And, Justin Fields is not a guy that really moves the needle as far as a quarterback. Good for him. He's going to have an opportunity. But I don't think they're going to be all that great this year. We'll see. And then, obviously, now you have maybe a kind of an unofficial trade of quarterbacks. If Aaron Rodgers goes to the Steelers for Justin Fields is in the Jets, that's like a swap. And then does that leave Russell Wilson with the Giants? Or does Aaron Rodgers go with the Giants? I haven't seen anything overnight, but to me, that's very, very interesting what's going on.
Sal Capaccio on the Western Hotline. We'll get a break in. Paul Hamilton on the other side on the Sabres. Thank you, Sal.
You got it, guys.
Plenty of free agents still out there. Some trades, of course, to be had. I mean, Trey Hendrickson and probably a few that we don't even quite know about right now. So we'll, of course, keep track of that. Sal coming up with the Northtown Automotive Extra Point Show throughout the week as well as we track all these moves. Jeremy and Joe, Paul, when we get back on the Sabres win over Edmonton, and your calls as well as free agency continues here on WGR.
First day of the unofficial start of free agency. Legal tampering was yesterday and today, and then tomorrow is free agency. So we'd expect tomorrow to hear the Bills officially sign wide receiver Josh Palmer to a 3-year deal worth up to $36 million, formerly of the Chargers. Bills reportedly also signing Michael Hoecht, who's played defensive end, defensive tackle, linebacker, and even slot corner a little bit for the Rams. That's a 3-year deal worth up to $24 million for Hoecht. Mack Hollins leaving the Bills to New England, 2-year deal worth up to $10 million, most likely to fall in the $8 million range, though, for Hollins. Cooper Kupp released by the Rams. They couldn't find a trade partner for him. Commanders trade for left tackle Laramie Tunsil. They give the Texans a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 7th to do that deal. Quarterback news, Sam Darnold to the Seahawks, 3 years, $100.5 million. Justin Fields to the Jets, 2 years, $40 million for Fields. And at corner, J.C. Horn gets a big deal with the Panthers, 4 years, $25 million per year. Sabres win last night, 3-2 over Edmonton. Josh Norris gets his first point as a Sabre on the game-winning goal that Tage Thompson scored. Next up tomorrow against Detroit at 7:30. Those are your Paddock Chevrolet sports headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of business.
Trying to leave it for Draisaitl. That's broken up now. Race for it. Bouchard. And he's got his hands full here. Right in front of the net. Scores! Tage Thompson! Sabres with the steal, and then they seal the deal with the 3-2 lead over the Oilers with 16:40 to go here in the third period.
One of the first moments of the game for the moments in life go forth to Firth Jewelers. Sabres win, beat the Edmonton Oilers. And we'll talk about it with Paul Hamilton. Of course, we're looking into how Josh Norris looks, the newest member of the Buffalo Sabres core. UPL played really well in this game. And the Sabres win. And Paul's joining us. His appearance brought to you by Raylax Honda. Raylax, we got this. Hey, Paul.
Hello. How are you?
Fun game last night. The game had some juice.
Yeah, it did. There's a lot of back and forth early in the game. And you talked about Luukkonen, and that was the Luukkonen we saw last year. You get goaltending like that, you always are going to have an opportunity to win a hockey game, and certainly he was there in every period, first, second, and third. It wasn't like he stood on his head and stole them a victory, but he absolutely, I think, gave juice to the fans, making great saves on Draisaitl, early on McDavid when he came flying in. I mean, those guys did have some chances. They're always going to have some chances with those two and the talent that they have, especially since for probably half the game or more they were on the same line together. Mm-hmm. And, Luukkonen came up big every time he needed to against those two.
And on top of that, Paul, Luukkonen comes up big. Did it feel like Ryan McLeod? It was kind of like a this is why we got him type game. He got matched up with the McDavid line a lot, and they got their chances, but they didn't kill the Sabres last night. I don't know. It felt like McLeod, whenever he was out there, held his own as much as anyone would be expected to.
He knew what he was doing, and he's got the speed to keep up with McDavid. I mean, when they were on the same team, people would debate who was faster. And so he can like be with him and take some of his time and space away from him. And as Lindy Ruff said, with McDavid, he goes, you watch any game, he goes, in our pre-scout, he goes, you watch any game, he's going to get 3 to 5 no matter what, chances like that using his speed. And that's what he did against the Sabres. But you got to limit how many chances he's going to get, and I think that's what McLeod did. Yeah, McDavid got a few, but it wasn't like he was in Luukkonen's face all night long. They kept it spaced out. They kept some of the chances, further away. He did cut in on a breakaway that Luukkonen made a save on, and I thought McLeod, going against McDavid in practice all the time, when he was an Edmonton Oiler, he knows what McDavid's all about. He saw him in all the games, and he did a pretty good job of taking time and space away from him on some of the rushes.
Paul, on Luukkonen, he's had a shaky season. I mean, you could really put whatever time frame you want on that, but played pretty well in this game.
Yeah, he did. I don't think he really had played well since the break. And, Lindy Ruff even said after, I believe it was the Tampa game, we needed a save. I mean, Vasilevsky gave you a gift. He scored 5 on Vasilevsky, which almost never happens. And he was not all that good, and yet Buffalo still lost the game 6-5. Not all Luukkonen's fault, but you didn't get a big save at a big time in that hockey game, and you hadn't been getting that since the break. And there have been streaks this year, I thought, where he's played pretty well, but nowhere near what we saw last year when he took over and, was the undisputed number 1 goaltender for the Buffalo Sabres, and it looked like they had found their goalie. Now there's a question mark. I mean, unless, with the season he's had this year, it's like, well, is he the goalie or isn't he? Was last year just a freak year, or is this year a bit of a freak year? And he's still got some time here to show the Sabres he can get back to what he was last year, and but still, it's not a lot of time. I mean, there's just about a month left in the season, so it's going to be interesting. What do you do with him in the off season? How do you think about him? Do you still think about him as a number 1 goaltender, or are you looking at, well, maybe you got to turn to Levi next year? Maybe he's the number 1 goaltender, or it's something they're going to have to look at.
Yeah, because they would. I don't know if it's ever put this way because he's a goaltender, but he would be considered part of the core, right? When Adams gets asked about the core and shakeups, like I'm not ever thinking about the idea of Luukkonen being traded, but if they're going to shake up the core, I think he's a part of it.
I think he is too. I think last year I thought he earned the number 1 goaltending position, and it seemed like he had taken the job. Definitely, I think he's part of the core now. He's past 25. And, when sometimes it takes goaltenders a little longer, and I thought maybe with him it did, but it looked kind of like Ullmark. I mean, Ullmark really wasn't a number 1 goaltender in the NHL until maybe his last season with the Sabres. And he was, up around the age where Luukkonen is too, when he kind of took off and his career took off. So it's not uncommon for a goaltender to be, where Luukkonen is in age, to begin to be a number 1 goaltender.
Paul Hamilton joining us. Let's get to Eye on the Blue and Gold, brought to you by Great Lakes Building Systems. We keep an eye on your business so you don't have to. Great Lakes Building Systems, our business is protecting your business. I want to ask about Josh Norris, Paul, and an eye on him. It's a couple games. What have you seen from him, and what are you looking for when watching him?
Yeah, you know what? He spent about 2.5 minutes penalty killing yesterday, and that's another thing. The Sabres, they gave up a power play goal on the Oilers' first power play. Then they did a nice job. Again, you got Draisaitl, you got McDavid out there in the power play. They had 3 more power plays, and Norris was out there, as I said, for about 2.5 minutes. I thought did a nice job. He actually led a 2-on-1 the other way, with Tuck on a penalty kill, and it seems like he's starting to get a little bit of a chemistry now with Thompson. Really a good play, good pressure on Bouchard coming down the right side. It looked like he was behind Bouchard. Next thing you know, he was with him, and next thing you know, he's like a half a step ahead of him, and forced the play and got the puck and found Thompson, who did a good job, I thought, of making himself available immediately if Norris was able to get that puck, which he was, and then Thompson was able to cut to the net by himself, and very patient goal, to let Skinner kind of take himself out of the play first, and then just calmly put it up over him and into the net.
Paul Hamilton with us. Kevin Adams got this question yesterday from Chopin Bulldog, Paul. It's been 3 months maybe now, Thompson playing on the wing, and with Kulik's season and now Norris being here, do you feel like he's, not to say he would never play center again, but that if you're thinking about this team going forward, that it might feel like he's more likely to be playing on the wing?
No, I don't think it's more likely. I don't think they've decided yet. I think they still want to see how all the dominoes fit and how they fall in, and they have options with him. Put it that way. Exactly what they want to do, and when they sit down and if Lindy Ruff's still the coach and they sit down and they talk about it, and where does he fit in to the picture? But since January 20th, Thompson is the league leader in goals with 14.
Paul Hamilton on the Western Hotline as we chat about the Sabres last night and their win over the Edmonton Oilers. What else looking forward, Paul, here? I mean, you've seen a losing streak come to an end. And is it Operation Get the Power Play going? I've seen some numbers, by the way, on the Sabres 5-on-5. Not just this year, but the last 3 years. This has been a team that's been good at 5-on-5, scoring more than playoff teams. And it probably sounds like oversimplifying it. Their power play is the reason they stink. Multiple seasons now. And I don't know what the long-term answer is for that, if it's coaching change, if it's better players, but
they probably hope Norris helps that too.
Yeah, it really is a thing that has sunk them to a level that, it's kind of comical. It shouldn't happen that your power play could be this bad and sink you that far.
Well, I looked at it when we heard that Lindy Ruff was the coach, and one of the things I looked at was 4 years with Dallas and 4 years with the Devils. The power play wasn't all that good. And in those stops, and there were times, like especially with Dallas, where he had one of the better scoring teams in the NHL, which at times he's had with the Sabres, but his power plays have never really been all that good. So I wasn't expecting a huge improvement on the power play with him coming in, and we obviously have not seen that. So. And with Rasmus Dahlin as your trigger man in the power play, and Tage Thompson out there, and Alex Tuch. Look at Alex Tuch, the role he's on. And he has one power play goal this year, and he just scored it like within the past couple weeks. That's crazy. I mean, and he's played on the 1 unit, he's played on the 2 unit. And, Alex Tuch is a good power play player, but, he's had his problems on the power play too. And imagine how many goals he would have if, he was had been a contributor goals-wise on a power play. He has more shorthanded goals than he has power play goals. So, it's just been mind-boggling with Dahlin quarterbacking the power play, how it just has not come through for them.
Sabres in Detroit tomorrow, then home for Vegas on Saturday. Thanks, Paul.
Take care, guys.
Paul Hamilton joining us to recap the Sabres win over Edmonton.
Tuch in the last 2 years, if you want to go back the last 137 games, 3 power play goals, 4 shorthanded goals in that amount of time. Also, I didn't realize yesterday that Bo Byram has not had a point since before the Super Bowl.
You know what else we forgot yesterday? We didn't we really didn't get to the dog of the day. What was the dog yesterday? I never saw what the hot dog of the day was.
Good. Well, we talked about it being a Skinner-themed dog of some sort. He did get a tribute video, I saw.
He did. Good.
His teammates made him stand up for it.
Good.
Like he was sitting on the bench. I didn't see what the dog ended up being, though. Something with olive oil, maybe.
Because of the Oilers?
Yeah.
I guess it's possible. Sure. 803-0550. Eric Turner of Cover One, top of the hour, to break down the fits the Bills have picked up here with Josh Palmer and Michael Hoecht. And, of course, on to day 2 of the legal communication period before signings can happen tomorrow. So NFL News expecting it to start rolling out again soon this morning. Jeremy and Joe on WGR. Jeremy White here for FanDuel Sportsbook, official partner of WGR. You can, speaking of dogs of the day, get a Dog of the Day Profit Boost token. One of the best parts about the tourney is an underdog taking down a powerhouse, unless, of course, you're a fan of that powerhouse. But anyway, upsets get better with FanDuel because underdog bet wins. You land more winnings with a profit boost. It's your chance to ride with the long shots, pick somebody you think is going to be a tough out. And if they win, you get a profit boost on that underdog bet. If you've been waiting to join FanDuel, there's no better time. The app is easy to use. When you win, you get paid instantly. Visit FanDuel.com/white to download America's #1 sportsbook today and back your dog of the day with a profit boost, because anything can happen in March. 21 plus and physically present in New York. Opt-in required. Cost of wager of at least plus 100 odds required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with the gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Hey, everybody. It's Jeremy and Joe. A nice sunny
Sunny
Tuesday.
Out. Very nice day out.
Yeah. This time of year, I mean, granted, I'm sure we'll have another dip into some temperatures we don't like and some rain because spring tends to be rainy, but man, yesterday was amazing. The number of people that just come out and walk around neighborhoods and walk around the park.
You see people on walks with the dog and passing that you haven't seen. I haven't seen you in 6 months.
Yeah. It's nice. Very nice. So enjoy it if you can get out there today. What else? NFL news.
I was just looking at the names of the top available free agents at each position. At receiver, it's Diggs, and then Cooper. So you're at the older guys right now. Evan Ingram is still available at tight end. That's not a Bills move. And quarterback, how many of these guys get starting jobs? Rodgers will get one. Wilson will get one. Does Daniel Jones, is there enough left? No, right? There's 2 left, right? It's the Giants and the Steelers.
Yeah.
That guy's starting. Although Schefter said yesterday he's not so sure the Browns take a quarterback now. And they traded for Kenny Pickett. So they're done?
They have to take a quarterback.
That's what I think, but I don't know. Watson and Pickett quarterback competition at the start, that would feel insane, but.
One odd thing, just reading at ProFootballTalk.com, about Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. So Puka said, hopefully I'll be a good negotiator because they both wear number 17.
Oh, okay.
Which I would say, you're Puka Nacua.
Yeah, right.
You don't have to give up your number.
Yeah.
You are a big deal, man. What? Puka wore 12 in high school and college, and maybe he'll switch back to 12 and give Devontae Adams 17. But, you're Puka Nacua.
Is there an offer that he would take, though, for that?
Shouldn't the NFL discourage it? Whoa, hold on a second. People buy your jersey. Just change it.
Right, a lot of people own your jersey.
Yeah, this is not somebody comes in and a backup safety has to swap out a number or something like that.
Did you see
in fact, who was it that got signed for a week? There was a signing recently where a guy got a number and then
this is the Mikko Rantanen story in Carolina.
Yes.
Jack Roslovich
got a Rolex.
Sold his number. He got money and a Rolex or something from Rantanen, who had his number, and then Rantanen got traded a month later.
Yeah.
And Roslovich, I'm just going to take my number back, and now he's got the watch,
right,
and the money. So he kind of made out.
Yeah, you're Jack Roslovic. Sure, sell your number. You're Puka Nacua.
Right.
You don't have to do that.
Josh Palmer was number 5, by the way.
Okay.
I think
Kyer Elam.
Okay, Bean maybe is just wait a week.
5 might be
maybe wait a week.
5 might be available. Yeah, Josh reaches out. I'm thinking about buying my number.
Don't text him.
Yeah, don't spend any money yet.
Yeah.
Just wait a minute.
Yeah.
803-0550. Eric Turner of Cover One. When we return, we like to chop it up with Eric a little bit once in a while, and he's got breakdowns on both Josh Palmer, who they kind of tabbed as a fit before the signing, and Michael Hoecht as well, as a chess piece in what he can do defensively. We'll do that, and also the targets that are still out there that the Bills could add here in free agency as they look to bolster their roster. 803-0550, our number. If you want to get a call in, we're happy to have you. Jeremy and Joe on WGR.
Free agency kind of underway in the NFL. Unofficial because of legal tampering, so none of these moves will be made official until tomorrow. The Bills are in with a reported signing of Josh Palmer, former Chargers receiver, 3 years, up to $36 million. Outside receiver, man coverage beater, need for the Bills. Also signing Michael Hoecht, defensive end, defensive tackle, linebackers, even played snaps at slot corner. 3 years, up to $24 million for Hoecht, formerly of the Rams. The Bills do lose Mack Hollins to New England. That's a 2-year deal worth up to about $10 million for Hollins. Goes to New England. Elsewhere in the NFL, we got some news coming in even this morning. Just now from Adam Schefter, safety Javon Holland is going to the New York Giants. Defensive tackle Jonathan Allen to the Minnesota Vikings. The numbers on Allen are 3 years, $20 million per year, worth up to probably, for Allen to go to Minnesota. Some of the news from yesterday at quarterback, Sam Darnold to the Seahawks, 3 years, $100.5 million. Justin Fields signs with the New York Jets. The Commanders trade for Texans left tackle Laramie Tunsil. It cost them a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 7th. And Cooper Kupp released by the LA Rams as they could not find a trade partner for him. Sabres in action last night get a win over Edmonton, 3-2. Josh Norris gets his first point as a Sabre on the game-winning goal by Tage Thompson. Next up is tomorrow in Detroit. That'll be a 7:30 puck drop for Sabres and Red Wings. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of business.
Herbert going deep, downfield for Joshua Palmer. Got it! Touchdown, Chargers! Whoa! Bang, bang, bang. 3 plays to the end zone.
The receiver train. It's always alive, baby. Although, gained one, lost one.
We changed cars on the train out. We got to a stop.
We're still
the Hollins
rolling.
car got off. Now the Palmer
a
car.
beloved car. A lot of Bills fans sad. A good reason. Mack was fun. Mack Hollins is fun. All the best to him. Jeremy and Joe with you. We're going to get into some of the Bills' free agent signings, maybe some new targets, the loss of Mack Hollins. Eric Turner of Cover One, who we've talked to before and love having on the show to dig into some of these players and what it means for the Bills, like mainly why they would target these players. Eric, good morning. It's Jeremy and Joe. Always a pleasure. Thanks for coming on.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me on.
So I know both of these players, Michael Hoecht and Joshua Palmer, were players that you guys had highlighted as targets for the Bills. And I know like the receiver train's my baby, but still, I want to start with Hoecht because defense, Eric, I think is something this Bills fans are really keyed in on. The offense is almost a finished product. The defense needs work, needs help. And Michael Hoecht is this rarest of players that it's comical, the positions he's played, the sizes he's played at. What do you see in what he offers and how the Bills might use him?
Well, obviously you said it. He's that versatile chess piece, so he's going to play on the edge. He's going to play off the ball. He'll be that apex like slot defender sometimes, depending on the defensive personnel grouping. I think he's going to obviously initially replace Dwayne Smoot as a rotational edge guy, but also a guy that on passing downs it can bump inside. And when he bumps inside, it's going to be a little different than Smoot because most of his rushes from inside in that traditional defensive tackle alignment is from a 2-point stance. And so what the Rams did with him is they would line him up all over the defensive front and use him as a rusher, use him as a dropper. It's much more creative when we're thinking about years ago when the Bills had Lorenzo Alexander, and they were trying to create ways to get him on the field. I think you're going to see a similar usage with him. With Hoecht, you're going to have him on edge on early downs, and then when it goes to passing downs, he's going to rush, he can drop. He's a lot more athletic out in space than, say, Zoe in his prime, but he's going to be a versatile chess piece, and it gets me excited because, we're seeing teams kind of evolve when it comes to playing defense and trying to catch up with offenses. And having a guy like him, you don't know if he's going to be the 4th rusher, the 5th rusher, or just a guy that's dropping out into the hook to curl zone from play to play.
So just his presence on the field makes an offense wonder what role he has on that play.
yes, you have to account for him, because if you line him up in a 2-point stance over a guard on third down, you have to account for him in pass protection. So you're pulling up a guard, you're occupying a guard, and that's going to give you some other one-on-ones on the edge, or even guys like Ed Oliver. You're going to open up some pass rushing opportunities for others because you have to account for him in the pass protection. When the quarterback and the center come up to the line of scrimmage, they see Hoecht in the A or B gap, they have to account for him, and so that could open up things for one-on-ones for others.
And then what about in terms of his ability once the play has begun? I've seen a lot of complimentary things about him in run defense. Maybe that's dependent on where he's lined up, but for you, pass rushing and then when it's a run play, what are you looking at once the play has begun for him?
See, this is what is exciting as well, because you got to think about what the Bills dealt with a lot last year. They saw the 6th most plays with 12 personnel, so 1 running back, 2 tight ends. The 6th most plays gave up the 5th most yards. So now when teams go to 12 personnel, you can have him out there, and he could be out at the end, or he could be the 3rd linebacker on the line of scrimmage, like a Sam linebacker. And so now you have the ability to stop the run with 5 guys on the line of scrimmage. Or, again, if they pass out of 12 personnel, he can drop out. So it's going to be interesting to see how creative they are with him. But I think that, with how they were attacked last year, they gave 10th most touchdowns versus 12 personnel. So I think Hoecht is that chess piece that can help you defend that personnel grouping, but also you're not going to lose anything when it comes to either defending the pass or the run.
Eric Turner of Cover One. Eric, with all that in mind, like where he can move around, if you're filling out the depth chart or trying to guess what the Bills might do next in free agency, this Hoecht signing wouldn't really, you wouldn't be any less likely to see a defensive end or defensive tackle in free agency or the draft, right? This is just, he's a guy that's a piece of your defense, and from here, the holes that existed before that you were probably targeting still do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't think this precludes you from upgrading any of the defensive line spots. I think when you're talking draft, you're talking free agency, I still think they want to add another D tackle, a pure D tackle. Again, I think Hoecht will take some of those snaps that we saw Smoot. Smoot had the 4th most snaps in the B gap last year. So I think that's going to still carry over, but they do need another D tackle, especially with how Dwayne Carter's season went. They're going to have to add another D tackle, and I think in the draft, I think it'll be more edge. So I don't think the signing of Hoecht really precludes you from making any other transactions at those positions.
Mm-hmm. At D tackle, some of the guys that have signed, Jonathan Allen just earlier today, it looks like $20 million with the Vikings, Milton Williams to the Patriots.
Poona Ford got a nice deal.
Poona Ford, yeah. That's right. Two-parter, Eric. Is there a guy that you saw get signed that you thought, would have done that? And if not, like who else is left right now that you like as a target on the defensive line?
Yeah, that's tough because the D tackle position, especially if you're looking for guys that want to play possibly nose tackle, you're not going to really get those flashy players at a reasonable cost. So I think more times than not, if they're going to address D tackle, especially nose tackle, I think it is going to be the draft, just because of how much, like you said, those numbers are crazy. Jonathan Allen, he was definitely a target in a scheme fit and could play a nose tackle, but the Bills can't afford that type of price. So I could definitely see them, looking to add a rotational piece, but I don't see them bringing in a guy that's going to start over Daquan Jones day one.
What's your appetite at this moment for the big edge rusher move? Really, I think maybe the only one left, though, is like Garrett is gone, and Josh Sweat yesterday. Maybe Hendrickson is the only name that's realistic that's left for this.
Yeah, again, I think with the cost it's going to take for free agents, I think it's a draft thing and draft high. I think when we're talking edge, I think they're going to look to draft a guy that can come in situationally, be a pass rusher, but then also learn behind the vets that they have there. Because the thing that you have to, also keep in mind is like A.J. Epinesa, he was an early down player last year, but it hurt his pass rush ability. He had one of his worst years as far as pass rushing productivity at the end in those pass rushing downs last year because he was on early down so much. So I think unless they plan on using someone else as a base end for early downs and then bump A.J. Epinesa back to a pass rushing role, I think they need more of a pass rushing sense. And maybe that guy's on the roster with Solomon. Maybe Javon Solomon becomes that situational pass rusher like the Bills used Vaughn last year. But when it comes to guys on the edge, I think we got to think more long term And I think that's early in the draft, and I think that's where they're going to want to develop that guy.
Eric Turner of Cover One. All right, Eric, to Josh Palmer, who is another player you guys previewed and gave a bit of a profile on. How much do you like Palmer, and how much is it really about the fit of what he brings to this offense?
Yeah, I mean, I loved Palmer going in. He was my top receiver target for the Bills, not because of the vertical stretch or take the top off the defense role, because he's really not that per se, and I know that was like one of the big needs for the Bills, and it still is. I just like him because all-around good receiver. You know, he played on the boundary. He played in the slot. He's a big-body receiver. He's a pro's pro. I think someone that Keon Coleman's going to learn a bunch from. You know, and I know, like, a lot of the stats with the discussion of Palmer kind of focus around man coverage. And while that is true, and he is good at separating versus zone versus man, for me, it's more of that X-type body, wide receiver that can win outside the numbers, but not just winning outside the numbers, but he can win to the middle of the field as well and make all of the routes look similar. He's a great nuanced route runner. And it's funny because if you look at his stats since he's come into the league, especially for talking man coverage, 43.8% of his receptions went for a first down or touchdown, which is 23rd from 2021 to 2024. Which is okay, 23rd doesn't really scream like, okay, he's worth $12 million a year. Well, you talk about him being ahead of guys like A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Cooper Kupp. It puts it in perspective. Maybe not the volume those guys got, but when we're talking analytics and film, he's a great combination bet.
How does it fit in with Mack Hollins leaving? You know, as you're trying to build this receiver room, I think a lot of people had factored Hollins to be here again. He had a nice season as a role player, and Eric, it might not be right to do this, but some are asking basically the question like, all right, well, is Palmer your new Cooper? Is he your new Hollins? As they start to get a bit of a different look to their room.
All right, I'll cop out a little bit. It's a little bit of both because, again, he's that X-type receiver, so he can go outside and be isolated on the backside of 3-by-1 sets because he can run the entire route tree. He can beat press. He can beat press jam. He can beat off-coverage zone or man. He varies his releases versus all of those defensive looks, but he also does the dirty work. You can see him, just like Mack Hollins, you know, blocking in the run game, setting picks and rubs on those mesh concepts and man-beater concepts. You see him doing all the little things that Mack Hollins does. The only thing he really doesn't do that Mack did was play special teams. And so I think Palmer's overall a better receiver. You know, whether you're talking Cooper or Mack Hollins, I think he's a better and more overall well-rounded receiver compared to Hollins. And he's going to do a little bit of what the Bills wanted in Cooper as a boundary guy, but also some of the dirty work stuff that, you know, the Bills love on early downs and plays when they're trying to spit the ball out to Shakir on screen.
So with that being said, do you feel like with Hollins' departure and Palmer coming in, that maybe they could get away with, like, okay, Hollins leaves, they don't need to go actively recruit a Hollins replacement, that if it's special teams you're looking for and maybe a little bit of size that, you know, whether that's, Sal mentioned Tyrell Shavers earlier, that might be a spot that they could fill at the bottom of the roster?
Absolutely. And yes, Shavers is a good replacement, but let's be honest, their second-round pick last year, Keon Coleman, does everything that Mack Hollins does as well. You know, he can block. He can do some things above the rim that maybe Hollins and even Cooper really couldn't, you know, consistently. Now that he needs to, of course, improve his consistency. But you're talking the dirty work plays, rubs, blocking, you know, whether it's in the box or out wide, and some of the stuff that I think Coleman can pick up on from a guy like Josh Palmer. I think that, you know, Shavers and Coleman are those type of guys in that mold, and those are two guys that just learn a bunch from a pro like Josh Palmer.
Final thing for you, Eric. Of the Bills players that haven't signed somewhere else yet but are out there, who's on your short list of hope they come back? Ty Johnson, Reggie Gilliam.
I was going to ask you about corner. Douglas could be this.
Rasul Douglas. These guys are going to go see their market. Who is it you're hoping comes back?
So the first guy that comes to mind is Ty Johnson. I mean, what a year he had last year. Super dependable as a runner. Super dependable as a receiver coming out of the backfield on third downs, and also their best pass blocker from the running back position. He just made big plays when called upon, and that type of mental toughness is not something that every player has, and he always rose to the occasion regardless of what that occasion was. So Ty Johnson would probably be the guy that first comes to mind. I know there may be some interest in, you know, guys like Kenny Gainwell is another one from the Eagles that played in a lot of big games, big moments. He's a guy outside of the Bills I could see filling that third down role that Ty Johnson has if the Bills are priced out of Ty Johnson's range.
All right. Eric Turner, Cover One. You can follow them everywhere, on Cover One, and check out their stuff they do on YouTube. Always great breakdowns. I went right to your Twitter, Eric, because as soon as I saw they got Palmer, I'm like, all right, let me take a look. Let me dig into it with you guys. So great work as always, and we'll talk again soon.
All right, fellas. Have a good day.
Eric Turner, Cover One. Cover One. They just do great work. Love digging into that stuff. How they'll use Josh Palmer. It's funny. Like, this is free agency. Free agency is I've got my flow chart, right? Where guy signs with your team. Love it. Guy signs with some other team. Oh, that's not any good. There's another version of it, which is everybody's overpaid. Oh, you can't pay that much money for that. Yeah. But this is the market. This is how it works. Free agency is where you go to get the things you didn't successfully draft. Everybody gets draft picks, and if you don't have things on your roster because you haven't drafted them well enough or because somebody left, it becomes a free-for-all. And the other thing I want to say about it, Joe, is instead of looking at it like, wow, these prices are out of control, that's partially true. The reality is more so that other prices are kept in check by the CBA.
Yeah.
Imagine you want to see a market get out of control.
A free market without a salary cap.
Have the draft. Just abolish the draft.
Yeah.
Oh, you want Cam Ward? Pay him.
Yeah.
Make him an offer. Oh, you want Travis Hunter? Go ahead. Pay him. What would Travis Hunter get as a free agent tomorrow? Is it
if he was just available
just
tomorrow?
Available. Is it $25 million?
Yes.
He gets $25 million a year. And instead, he gets, 25 total on a contract and an entry-level deal? So free agency shows you that when all these teams can bring their money to the table, these players are worth a hell of a lot more.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Holland, 3 years, $45 million with the Giants is one of those.
$15 million a year. Okay.
$15 million a year for the top safety on the market.
Yeah.
The quarterbacks, especially. I mean, the quarterbacks would make $1 billion.
Oh, Josh Allen on the open market.
Oh, yeah.
He might.
What does Messi get? Play soccer. Like that would be the Allen and the Mahomes number, probably. There is, I think though, more than ever, everyone is spending. Right? There's no, this is the punishment. You have to build through free agency. New England got criticized 4 years ago with Belichick when they went all out. They spent all this money. Nelson Aguilar, right? Like Hunter Henry, and it was, they overpaid for a lot of average football players. And I remember that being the takeaway at the time is they're not going to be any good, and they just kind of ruined their next 5 years. And New England just did the same thing, and I feel like you could have the same takeaway, which is Milton Williams is pretty good, but they signed up a lot of mid guys. But I'm not hearing the same takeaway of, they kind of ruined their next 4 years because everyone acknowledges the cap is going up at a rate that, New England spent $200 million yesterday. And they're probably going to have room next year and the year after to do more things because the cap's going to go up even more.
I saw Brad Spielberger point out, it's like if you think the numbers are high, it's not just because of the cap going up this year, it's because of the estimated increase next year.
Right.
You're going to see such an explosion. These teams know, hey, don't worry about it. Spend the money. And it's a message I hope Brandon Beane, gets and receives and spends big money and goes and does whatever it takes. Because that's the other thing about all this, about mid-level players. Have you noticed, if you are a team and you spend money on a player and your quarterback stinks, your team is foolish. Oh, geez, you paid this money for this receiver? Who's your quarterback?
Yeah.
Oh, you spent $50 million on
That's the Metcalf criticism right now is, why'd you trade for DK Metcalf when you don't have a quarterback?
It doesn't even have to be receiver. Oh, the Cardinals paid what for Josh Sweat? They're not good enough to get a player like that. You got this catch-22 where if you're a team that doesn't have a quarterback, you need to go get players. So you do, and then you get mocked because you're not good enough and your quarterback's not good enough. But if you're a team that does have a quarterback, like the Bills, then it's, no. Don't spend money on those big players because your quarterback is good. You don't need to spend this big money. I feel like it's a constant catch-22. Whatever. We'll see where the Bills go from here. There have been a lot of players that have signed that were on the list, and Jonathan Allen would have been one of them.
Yep.
And I was not thinking
money.
I was not thinking Javon Holland at all. That was a I'll be shocked if they spend the money on safety. Big money on safety, that is. So we'll see who else comes free in trade talks.
They are going to need a running back if Ty Johnson doesn't re-sign. I mean, he was the pass-catching back.
Right.
If he's gone, I like that Eric mentioned, I just had the name. Who was the name he just mentioned that was a pass-catching running back? Kenneth Gainwell is one of them.
Right.
But, like, they'll need I guess it would have to be that kind of back. Like, they're not going to sign Nick Chubb if Ty Johnson leaves, right?
No.
They're not going to sign Raheem Mostert, are they? If Ty Johnson leaves, like, they're going for the Gainwell. Is A.J. Dillon this a little bit? He catches passes.
A.J. Dillon is a truck.
He catches passes, though.
Okay.
But, he's not fast.
He catches passes like you could throw a football to the back of a dump truck. Like
right.
all right, the dump truck can catch a pass.
Right. He's also coming off a season-ending knee injury, I think. I'd like them to re-sign Ty Johnson, by the way. I'm looking at the running back list isn't very... Like, Jordan Mason would have been cool, but they just put a second-round tender on him for RFA status.
I'm just ready for the Bills to shock us all. And, they got Josh Palmer, and Hollins is gone, and I don't know about Cooper, and they'll probably do the same thing they did last year with maybe a different core. Hopefully it's a little better, and then boom, Chris Olave for a second. Like, that's what I'm ready for that.
Yeah.
Give me that. Garrett Wilson moved, although he's not likely to move. Wilson played with Justin Fields at Ohio State, which would lead one, here's a fun question. You're Garrett Wilson. You're presumably friends, have a relationship with Justin Fields. Like, good news, your buddy's playing quarterback. Bad news is he's not very good.
Yeah.
What do you...
You're probably not getting the ball as much.
Right. How do you feel about it?
Or as efficiently. Yeah.
Here's one thing I would tell you. The Bills' sack numbers are about to go up this year. 2 games against Justin Fields is 8 sacks. Like, book it.
Yeah.
That guy takes sacks.
The year, by the way, that Wilson played with Fields, by the way, though, he didn't do very much. He had 30 catches for 400 yards. He was a freshman.
In college?
Yeah. Like, Fields, he might know what Fields is. Fields threw for 3,000 yards in college. It's not like he had the big Burrow year where Chase and Jefferson both had, like, tons and tons of yardage. Like, he would know what Fields is. He would know Fields is going to come in. He's going to run the ball a lot. He's going to run it a lot. They're going to run it with Breece Hall. And I'm going to get the ball some, but I'm not getting fed. If you're Garrett Wilson, this is not good for my contract situation.
No.
I don't expect to put up the numbers that are going to make me a $35 million receiver if Justin Fields is the quarterback.
He'll probably get it anyway. Because
that money?
I mean, he's put up 1,000-yard seasons with 3 different quarterbacks now.
Yeah.
He's legit. I think everybody kind of knows that. 803-0550. The Falcons have signed a player whose name I believe is Divine Diablo, which is a great name.
Divine Diablo.
It's either Divine Diablo or Divine Diablo. Which I had
that
a thought.
Is a pretty good name.
I had a thought yesterday, is watching the Sabres game.
That's a good band name.
Speaking of great names, somebody tweeted out a highlight of, like, Luukkonen played great last night, right? He was awesome.
Yep.
And someone tweeted out a picture or a video of whenever you're in the locker room and the players are reading off the starting lineups.
Yeah.
And it's it became very clear to me in this moment that when they read off starting lineups, whoever is reading off the starting lineup for the Sabres, or this video would have been like Finland, because it was not.
Okay.
I think it was Joki Harju. Must have been an international tournament. Or I guess it could have been the Sabres on the road. That's probably more likely, sorry. Anyway, what I'm getting at is when these players read off the lineups, next time you see the Sabres do this, I want you to see how much fun the person that says Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen has. It is an elite name to say.
Yeah.
It's an unbelievably fun name to say.
Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen.
Why do we ever use UPL? It's ruining it.
Have you noticed UPL's kind of gone away? They're not calling him. No one's calling him UPL anymore. He's Oopie.
Or he's Ookie Pookie or whatever, right?
Oh, I haven't heard that.
Oh, they do Ookie Pookie. They do.
I've just heard Oopie. Ookie Pookie?
There's a lot. They love his name. It's fun to say. Yeah. Ookie Pookie Lukey. Whatever you want.
He really should be better for his name being as good as it is.
He was good last night.
He was good last night. He did.
Yeah.
The puck did hit the post 4 times too, but yeah, he was good. No, he was good.
803-0550. Coming up, Jason Zucker, by the way, 9 o'clock. No Lindy today. We have Jason Zucker instead. He'll join us at 9. And AJ Jakubec in Ottawa on the trade and Josh Norris and what to expect there. But plenty of NFL free agency still to come. Jeremy and Joe here on WGR.
Bills making some moves yesterday. Signings expected to become official tomorrow when free agency opens, but the Bills will reportedly sign wide receiver Josh Palmer, 3 years, $36 million, and defensive lineman Michael Hoecht, 3 years, up to $24 million. Mack Hollins is leaving, going to New England on a 2-year deal worth up to $10 million. Already some free agent signings in the league this morning. Again, these would become official tomorrow. Jonathan Allen to the Vikings. Defensive tackle signs 3 years, $60 million. Javon Holland to the New York Giants. That's a $15 million per year deal for him. Justin Fields goes to the New York Jets. Sam Darnold to the Seattle Seahawks. So the next big quarterback domino to drop is Aaron Rodgers, whether that's going to be the Steelers or maybe the Giants. Pittsburgh seems to be the favorite at the moment. Sabres win last night 3-2 over the Oilers. Next up is tomorrow against Detroit. That's a 7:30 puck drop here on WGR. Those are your Paddock Chevrolet sports headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of business.
I do like Josh Palmer. His best trait is his versatility. Like, he's a big guy that can play inside and outside.
3 years ago was his best statistical season at 101 targets. He was the wide receiver 3 on that team. And if you remember, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams both missed contests. And when Keenan Allen missed a game, Josh Palmer would fill in as the primary slot wide receiver and did a very good job. But man, it's still Josh Allen. It's just going to spread the football around. Josh Palmer is going to fit somewhere in here.
I see him as a number 3 wide receiver. 1.4 yards per route run against man coverage is like low-end starter level stuff. He's 25 years old, so there's a chance he gets a little bit better.
Man, every once in a while on these big outside breaking routes or like 17-yard comebacks, he makes just incredible grabs.
Josh Norris and Hayden Winks of Underdog Fantasy. Watch that whole breakdown, like 13 minutes on Josh Palmer. And I think it's a nice signing, a nice depth kind of signing. He's not thought to be a number 1. The Bills really don't have anybody that is a candidate to blossom into a number 1 for my money. But a nice signing, and I think it's the most they've spent on this position that's not that level of guy. He got paid less than Gabe Davis did a year ago.
Yep.
And, the cap goes up and you get paid less. That's kind of like getting paid less twice. So, depth signing, not a bad move for the Bills. I do like the skill set. And, for those of us on the wide receiver train, there's certainly more room for someone to come in here. Because Mack Hollins left. And on Hollins, Joe, I have a take on Hollins that I don't want to come across like I'm insulting him or feel like he had no value. But when I saw the news that Hollins was gone, I would have been fine with him back, and whatever the money would have been, $2 million, $3 million, whatever. There's players on this team that are going to get money, that are going to be not living up to the contract, and some that are. But for Hollins to leave, to me, there's a small signal in there, if I may, and that is that a lot of last year was, if I could use the term that the kids use, you kids, you guys use this. Last year was a lot of vibes based, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, the vibes are good. Mack Hollins is a vibe. Mack Hollins is Joe Brady said he's one of his favorite people he's ever met. Yep. Allen loves him. Like, they love this guy. Fans loved this guy. He dresses up in costumes. He doesn't wear shoes. He does. He led the team in touchdowns. He caught a touchdown in the AFC Championship game. He did a lot. And there's a lot to like about Mack Hollins. But the Bills' willingness to move on from him is, to me, a small but undeniable feather in the cap of, vibes are good, man, but we're here to win. And we have value we placed on this player, and we think we can replace that player. We got to get better in other spots. We're not going to spend twice as much as we want to on Mack Hollins because of the vibes. And like I said, I'm not trying to say culture and all that stuff is worthless, just that to let him go, and he goes to a division rival, you are saying, hey, man, great to have you, wish you luck, not losing sleep.
No, because they can't maybe do better with vibes, but they can certainly get a better football player.
Yeah, and he was okay. He was pretty good. Special teams, like he played a role for them, and he got a lot of snaps, and he didn't disappoint all that often. To me, it's a little bit of an extension of the Christian Kirk idea. When Kirk became available, and I thought, oh God, don't sign Christian Kirk, because if you do that, I'm going to think you just signed Josh's friends. And Christian Kirk went to the Texans, and I was a little bit relieved. Like one thing I want to see from the Bills, I think, is a little bit more of whether it's cutthroat, go for it mentality above, hey, everyone's just having the best time of their life and everybody's loose. And, you got to make sure that there are people in there that are pushing the envelope to make sure that they're the best players they can get, the best team they can get. And I don't think Hollins is against that. It's just, to me, that move comes with a little bit of that. Just a little bit of, hey, man, we loved you, but we're not paying you $4 million a year. So thanks, but no thanks.
He was dead last in the NFL in yards per route run against man coverage last year, by the way. Part of this, he ran a lot of routes.
He did.
But dead last.
That's terrible.
No, there's no receiver in the league that was lower.
Yeah. I guess
that one number.
That is probably a side effect of everybody eats too. And again,
a little bit.
One more thing. Everybody eats is fine if the players are awesome. The Eagles are everybody eats. And
right.
If the players are awesome, then wing it around.
Right.
So we'll see if they add anybody else at the receiver room.
It really could. We went into this with Eric, or I asked him about it, that this is kind of my thought on Hollins, though, as a player, like where, sure, like he's well-liked, but am I worried about replacing him? Because I'm not really, if I hear Tyrell Shavers is going to replace him, I'm just, okay, sure. But I'm not wanting Tyrell Shavers to play 67% of the snaps.
Right, and lead
like
the
Mack
team
Hollins
in snaps
did.
in the AFC Championship game.
Right. What replacing Mack Hollins really should be is special teams, number 5 receiver on the depth chart. And if you boil it down that way, number 5 receiver on the depth chart shouldn't be that high of a priority.
Yep.
The top 4, when you agree, the top 4 is set. They're top 4 wide receivers. Like somebody coming in over top of any of Shakir, Coleman, Palmer, and Samuel.
Well, let me give you the names.
Like those 4 probably, to me, are your top 4 receivers.
Let me tell you who's left. In free agency, here are the receivers left if you wanted to have this conversation. And then, of course, you can go to the draft. The number 1 player available is a man by the name of Stephon Diggs. I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think that's
Keenan Allen.
It would be the funniest thing ever.
Keenan Allen, no.
No.
Amari Cooper.
Nope.
Not interested. Brandon Cooks. He always produces wherever he goes. Then becomes the fifth name.
But if my 5th guy's got to play special teams as part of this too. But I can ignore that for now.
Yeah, the idea is this guy's not playing special teams. This guy's going in above
one of those 4.
Even Josh Palmer.
Right. Or at least Curtis Samuel.
Right. And by the way, part of this is there are a million slot guys and not that many guys that'll be outside.
Yeah.
Here's the name we mentioned yesterday that I just don't know what anybody's going to do with him, but he's awesome, and that's Deontay Johnson. Tyler Lockett, no. DeAndre Hopkins, doubtful.
Sure about Lockett?
I mean,
he's played more outside the last 2 years because JSN's been there. But to be fair, it's not like he's done great, though. He's played outside kind of by necessity because the new guy is better in the slot, so you got to go to the outside, and he's been okay, but he hasn't been right. Where is he at his best? He's a vertical speed guy from the slot. Is what you would like to do with him.
Might fit in with the versatility, especially if he can go inside outside, and Palmer can go inside outside. I don't know. We'll see.
Or it's a rookie.
Yes.
Or it's a second round, late second round, or a third round rookie is, hey, that's the 5th guy in the depth chart, and now I've got someone that might present some upside that could grow past any of the names we just talked about.
Yep. On defense, you might say, like, what about the defense? There are 6-7 defensive players I would have signed with the Bills. I mean, they know their fits better than I do, but Jonathan Allen seemed like a good idea. Khalil Mack, I would have done that 1 year, guaranteed money for him.
Would it be weird
Josh Sweat would have done that?
Will it be weird if the offseason comes and goes and their defense is exactly the same except they have a couple extra rookies?
And Michael Hoecht.
And Michael Hoecht, who, I like all the points about his versatility and all the different things he does, and that he's pretty good at a lot of different things, but he was also a $7 million player. Right? This is not Hendrickson. This is not Garrett. This is not Khalil Mack even. It's a nice player, but if it's a middle of the road free agent and rookies, that'll surprise me, I guess. It'll surprise me.
Yep. 8030550. 1-888-550-2550. You can give us a ring. You can join us on the chat. We're hanging out. A beautiful Tuesday. Absolutely the best. What else is going on today?
Champions League is going on today. That's what's happening today. Other than that, I don't know, does Ovechkin play? I'm starting to want to know when the Capitals play. Night to night, as he gets closer to the record.
They did not play last night. There was a game, Toronto, Utah, and there was a fight, and the guy on the Leafs threw a Superman punch.
Yeah.
Which is when you jump in the air and punch down.
Yeah. He jumped kind of straight up in the air.
He did.
Also.
He didn't land it.
That's the other thing. Everyone's freaking about the punch. He hit the guy in the shoulder.
Yeah. Had he landed that punch.
It's still cool, but.
Had he landed that punch, would the NHL have made it illegal? I mean,
the Superman punch?
Yeah.
What are they going to do? Add another extra 5 minutes?
10-game suspension. I don't know.
Right.
Will somebody else try it in the next week?
The Superman punch? No.
All right. Tim in South Carolina. Hey, Tim.
Hey, guys. Good morning.
Morning.
I really like your points about Josh Palmer. I think that he gives the Bills just that little extra piece that they were kind of missing last year with the ability to beat man coverage. I do think that it's certainly an upgrade over Mack Hollins. I liked your point about, the vibes are great, but let's go win something. So I do like I'm right with you on that. Michael Hoecht, for me, was excellent to see, too. I think it's really good value. He's just like a high-motor guy. My dad's a Rams fan, and we watch the games together, and he always just kind of shows up. I really like the player a lot, like the value even more. My favorite move of the day that I would love to see the Bills kind of do would be to go after like a Derek Nottie from the Chiefs or like a Greg Gaines from the Tampa Bay Bucks, both defensive tackles. Just get an extra dude in there for depth, because I truly think at pick 30 they want to go best player available, and that may be defensive tackle, and that's okay. But at the very least, you're signing a lower cap hit guy to fill a depth role at that position, which I think we could all agree that they probably need 2 or 3 of those by the time that this offseason cycle is over. So just wanted to hear your guys' thoughts on that. And maybe if you have a favorite deal or favorite thing for them to do today, I'd love to hear that too. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Charles Menahu of the Chiefs, like interior defensive guy, not a bad idea for me. One thing you said there got me thinking about Josh Palmer or any one of these guys you might like. Anybody you sign now for depth, you don't have to necessarily think they're going to be the starter, but there's probably some value in going to the draft not thinking, oh, dear God, we've got to get somebody, which is where they were at receiver last year. It was, they got Mack Hollins and MVS, or he was after the draft even. It was Curtis. Yeah. It was Curtis Samuel and Mack Hollins, and Shakir going to the draft. Like, my goodness, you got to come out with one, and they did after trading down because they were probably thinking about a different one. Maybe not.
My idea is still trade for Trey Hendrickson, 100%. He's the only guy. The goal of this offseason to me was get an elite player somewhere. You don't have enough of them. And at the moment, I think there's one. That's it. He's the only one that feels like you can get your hands on right now, so go do that.
Well, I can't envision them trading with the Bills. And to me, it's different. The Bills and the Chiefs trading in the draft and the Bengals and the Bills trading. Like, I don't think the Bills should trade with the Chiefs. They're chasing them. Should they trade with the Bengals to get the established asset?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And also the Bengals are chasing the Bills. I know the matchups haven't gone too well, but the Bengals have work to do to get to where the Bills are. You're not directly in your way. Anyway, 803-0550. Lots and lots of moves out there. Lots of money being spent. We'll get your calls in, 803-0550. Jason Zucker, expecting to chat with him coming up top of the hour. He signed a contract extension with the Sabres. So on we go. Jeremy and Joe on WGR. Jeremy White here for FanDuel Sportsbook, official partner of WGR. Dog of the day, that's a profit boost they're offering you at FanDuel. The dog of the day in college basketball. The tournaments are on the way. conference tournaments, the big one as well, and upsets get even better when your underdog bet wins because you can land more winnings with a profit boost. It's your chance to ride with a long shot, whether it's a huge long shot or just maybe a small one. Either way, profit boost tokens for you on a dog of the day, your chance to ride with an underdog. If you've been waiting to join FanDuel, it's a good time to do that. App is easy to use. When you win, you get paid instantly. Visit FanDuel.com/white to download America's #1 sportsbook today and back your dog of the day with a profit boost because, after all, anything can happen in March. 21 plus and physically present in New York. Opt-in required. Wager of at least plus 100 odds required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with the gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Is it 60 out yet? It looks like it's 60. It's 48.
It's getting chilly in here. Wish I had a sweatshirt.
Nice outside.
It's very nice outside, yeah.
We're going to get to what's going on in the chat next hour because perhaps the funniest sentence ever uttered in the YouTube chat was uttered. Mm-hmm. They were talking about our fashion choices, our clothing also. Who had the better polo was a conversation that happened in the chat earlier. Me or you?
Who has a better polo?
Yeah.
You just got the dogs on it?
Yeah. Black labs and tennis balls.
I wouldn't even know how to. Mine's like a jungle theme.
I think
kind of.
You know what it looks like? It looks like who says there's no palm trees in Buffalo? We got them on Joe's shirt. Joe's got palm trees on his shirt.
The gift that keeps on giving, the palm tree jokes. We both want it to be golfing. That's what we're dressing for the weather we want.
That is true. I am wearing shorts. I am eager to golf. I'm excited.
I'm eager to golf now, and I guarantee this weekend's going to be tough for me because I don't plan on. Do you plan on trying to play this weekend?
Probably not. And watching Sawgrass is going to make you want to play.
That's what I mean. It's going to be 60 Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, 68, and you're going to watch the Players' Championship.
It's going to be 60. I'm going to have the windows open in my house with Sawgrass on the television.
Yeah.
I can't go back after that.
This is going to be tough.
To whatever we'll have. We'll have snow the next week. I won't be able to go back mentally. I'm going to lose it. And maybe I do need the palm trees. Should I block this person on Twitter who's put the Tom Brady speech to the Raiders in my feed?
Yes.
From the Raiders. Behind the Shield. Do I want Behind the Shield, which is following around Tom Brady on his first few days as minority owner of the Raiders? Blocked.
Just what we need. We definitely need more of that.
The report is they can't get Geno to sign an extension yet. They're like very far apart in talks. So he's got 1 year left.
Speaking of extensions, Jason Zucker signed one with the Sabres, and we'll chat with him on the other side. So we'll chat with Zucker and also check in Ottawa 9:30. We'll check in on the chat. We're plenty to get to. And keep following free agency to see if the Bills add anybody else who goes off the board. It's been a very active first 24 hours of the legal negotiating period. So we'll keep you updated. Jeremy and Joe, give us a ring, 803-0550 on WGR. I just see I have a March Jeremy White here to tell you about Atwell Eye Care's next event coming up Friday, March 14th. It is a cataract lunch and learn. That's right, lunch and learn at Iliad Apollo's restaurant. Enjoy free lunch as you learn all about cataracts and your options. Meet Dr. A.J. Jarungal, ask questions, and find out how cataract surgery can help you see the 716 more clearly. So if you are a sports fan, you're out at an event and driving home, you notice you don't see the same way. You're having trouble seeing in bright light or at night. Your vision may be suffering from cataracts, part of the natural aging process. Don't worry, Atwell has you covered. Customized cataract surgery options that fit your lifestyle. So stop procrastinating. Register at atwelleye.com. That's atwelleye.com for their upcoming Cataract Lunch and Learn this Friday, the 14th, at Iliad Apollo's. Register at atwelleye.com. Atwell Eye Care, official eye care provider of the Buffalo Bills, and the eye care I trust for my family.
Bills getting to work yesterday, first day of the legal tampering period. 2 signings to speak of so far for the Bills. Josh Palmer, wide receiver of the LA Chargers, 3 years, $36 million, expected to be announced tomorrow by the Bills. Also, defensive lineman Michael Hoecht, 3 years, up to $24 million. Hoecht, who's played defensive tackle, defensive end, linebacker, even slot corner, Swiss Army knife for the defense. That's up to $24 million. Mack Hollins is going to New England. He will not be back with the Bills. That's a 2-year deal for him, worth up to $10 million with the Patriots. Elsewhere around the NFL, some big signings this morning. Safety Javon Holland, top safety on the market, goes to the Giants, $15 million per year. Jonathan Allen to the Vikings, $20 million per year for the defensive tackle. At quarterback, Sam Darnold goes to Seattle, 3 years, $100 million. Justin Fields signs with the Jets, 2 years, $40 million for him. Big trade in the league yesterday was the Washington Commanders trading for Texans left tackle Laramie Tunsil. Cost them a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 7th to get that deal done. Sabres in action last night, get the win over Edmonton, 3-2. Josh Norris gets his first point as a Buffalo Sabre on the assist on the game-winning goal. Next up is Detroit tomorrow night at 7:30. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of business.
Good morning, Jeremy and Joe.
Good morning, guys. Hey, good morning, guys. Good morning, guys. How you doing?
Hello there.
Hi, everybody. Hey, guys. How you doing today? Hey, good morning, guys.
Hi, guys. Great show. Love it.
Good morning, guys. Big fan of the show.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.
Call or text WGR at 803-0550 or post on X at WGR550 and get connected to Jeremy and Joe now.
All right. A good Tuesday morning. Jeremy and Joe. NFL free agency negotiating window remains open. Deals can become official tomorrow. So get ready to see officially official with players with pens in hand. Josh Palmer and Michael Hoecht added to the Bills so far. We'll see if anybody else gets added today, and if they agree to terms with anybody new today, or who leaves. Of course, free agents that could hit the open market and go sign with another team. It is an exciting time.
And we'll see if anyone goes back on their word. Well, that's usually pretty rare.
Well,
but it's happened.
You have plenty of players saying, I'd like this, I'd like this, I'd like this, and then they sign somewhere else.
Yeah.
Anyway, on the Western Hotline is, speaking of contract extensions, is Jason Zucker of the Buffalo Sabres, who recently signed an extension. Jason, it's Jeremy and Joe. Thanks for taking some time this morning.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me, guys.
First off, congratulations on the extension. And, it's kind of interesting. Like, you come here on a 1-year deal, and Sabres fans probably know you from around the league and wonder what it's going to go like, how it's going to go. Your impressions coming in when you signed here, I guess, what was it that brought you to it, and you liked it enough to stay for a couple more years?
Yeah, I think you go through phases of your career, of course, but I think for me, it was exciting to, I didn't know where I was going to slot it in the lineup. I didn't know any of that, but seeing the young talent that was on this team was very enticing. The top 9, everybody that they had throughout that top 9, getting Ryan McLeod, from Tomer to Tucky and all the way down. I mean, there's a ton of talent. So I knew I was going to be playing with some great players, and that was a big piece. And I think it's been a fun challenge for me, being the old guy and trying to help in that realm. But it's been a lot of fun on the ice.
Has the season gone for you personally how you would have hoped? The numbers are certainly there. I know team-wise you wouldn't say yes, but at least offensively it feels like you're putting up numbers that you would have even a few years ago.
Yeah, individual success is always nice, but it truthfully would be nowhere without my line mates and the guys that have been pushing me forward, and it's been fun to play with everybody. I mean, obviously, again, individual success is always nice, but we didn't hit the goals that we wanted as far as a team, and that's been disappointing. But I do think, I've said this a few times now, I do think that we've made strides as a team and as an organization. I think obviously there's still a long way to go, and we'll address that this offseason and try to get back after it. But I think there were definitely some strides taken for sure.
To that point, Jason, I feel like Sabres fans would acknowledge, and I think anybody would acknowledge, this organization has, right now, it might feel like baggage to carry because of a drought, because of what's happened long before you got here. When you come into a room that has that, maybe sometimes with some of the players, as a fresh voice, a fresh face, you feel like, and especially as a veteran such as you are, like, do you feel like you can be someone that helps shed that for the guys that might be carrying it?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, it's always tough, right? We absolutely understand the fan base, the frustration, wanting to be in the playoffs. We want it more than anybody else in the city does, and it's frustrating when you go through these times, when you go through a 13-game losing streak and you just can't figure it out. But it is always nice to have a fresh voice. It's always nice to change up the room a little bit. It's a tough part of the business because you never want to lose your friends and your teammates and that. And, I heard nothing but amazing things about Okposo and Gergensons and Skinner and that kind of leadership group that they had before. But sometimes it's just the way it works. You need to try something new, and that's not a knock on those guys. It's just the way the room works. That's why coaches get fired. That's why players get traded. Things obviously aren't working, but ultimately there's only one team happy at the end of the year, and everyone else is trying to fix their team and grow and get better and be ready for the following year.
So you spoke on like kind of the young talent that kind of drew you here. So you've obviously seen enough from that to stick around for 2 more years. What would you say then is the thing that the group together needs to do to kind of realize that potential then from the talent, and you see some of what the highlights of what the team can do, 8-2 out of the Four Nations break against the Rangers, to then put that together for a full season?
Yeah, I mean, those games are pretty unrealistic to think that you're going to pull off more than, you get one of those a year, maybe 2, where you're going to put up 8 on somebody. Every team is so good now. It's nearly impossible to do that on a normal basis. But regardless, for me, I think it's learning how to win, and learning how to win is just all the little things of knowing when you can go try a play, through the middle, knowing who you're on the ice against, if that's a smart idea or not. The turnovers, the little plays that give the other team a little bit of life. I think we've done that too much this year. When you look at our, the 4-0 game versus Colorado, actually both games against Colorado, you look at some of the games that we've blown leads, was, a lot of it was handing the other team chances and giving them a little bit of life and making it tougher on ourselves. So I think we're that's one of the biggest learning curves for us, is just learning how to win in those aspects of the game. It's not, it's not the skill anymore. We had the skill. We know how to use it. It's just a matter of learning all the rest of the aspects of the game to help us win games.
On a micro level, do you feel like that? How'd that go last night? Your first night back in the lineup, and they just put you right out there against the McDavid line a lot.
Yeah, I mean, that's always fun, just chasing him around the ice. Chasing a 9-7 around, but he's obviously a special talent. It's impossible to stop him. You're just going to try to maintain him as much as you can, and try to push him to the outside. I thought we did a pretty good job of that. He's going to get his chances. Draisaitl's going to get his chances, especially on that power play. It's lethal, but I thought our penalty kill was incredible. I thought Upi was our best player all night. And then obviously Tomer and Norris had a great night between the two of them, and it was nice to get those goals and get that win. So for us, it was a good step, and we're going to try to use this last 20 games to kind of build and feel good going into summer. And then, we're going to regroup and get back after it.
That game also, McLeod, who's been, I looked up by a slight margin, your most common line.
So first of all, Clowder is an unbelievable player. He's so fast. His skating is unlike anyone else that I've seen. He just flies. He just floats around on the ice. It's pretty incredible to watch. So I think that's a huge attribute for him. I think he's a smart player, and I think he's got the skill set to be able to play that offensive game too. But as far as the defense goes, it's really tough to get offense to get someone that skates that well. That's why you look at some of our D-core, it's with how well they skate, they're able to play a little bit more offense and play the game a little bit differently because they can get back so well. But as far as Clowder, I think on last night it was impressive watching him. I'm sure that there's a certain aspect of playing with McDavid the last few years. He knows some of his tendencies and things of that sort. But he did a heck of a job, and Tucky and I were just trying to make sure we did our part on that line and shut him down as best we could.
Jason Zucker with us on the Western Hotline. One of the deficiencies that has kind of synced the team at times this year has been the power play, Jason. And you've got 9 goals on the power play this year, but for the whole group overall, what do you think the right answer or angle is to improving that? And I wonder even just what Josh Norris maybe could do for that, because he scored a lot of power play goals in Ottawa. And I don't know, like, this could change, but in a very generic sense, it feels like having him on a one-timer opposite of Tage could only help.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not going to hurt. I think for us, and a lot of teams really that struggle in the power play, power plays typically for your best players you feel like are time to make plays. When realistically, I think a lot of the best power plays have a simplicity factor to them. I think when you look at the Tampa Bays of the world, when you look at Colorado, they're shooting a lot of pucks. They're moving to get somebody open to shoot a puck. It's not trying to make seam passes, every single play, every time you touch the puck. It doesn't need to look fancy and ends up on SportsCenter. You have an extra guy. You need to just, create little 2-on-1s, pull guys out of their positions on the PK and try to attack. It makes it really tough when we're shooting pucks. And I think early in the year, we had a ton of success just shooting pucks, getting rebounds and making plays from there. Because once the penalty kill gets broken down, you have a heck of a lot better of a chance of scoring. And I think we found success in and out, up and down throughout the year, but it hasn't been consistent enough, and it's something that we definitely need to address. But my personal opinion is it's a lot about just keeping it simple and getting pucks to the net, using that extra advantage, and just crashing the net and get some of the dirty goals around the crease.
Jason Zucker on the Western Hotline. He just signed a 2-year extension with the Sabres after this year. It's gone pretty well for him. Jason, I was looking at just, your rundown of where you've been. A lot of time in Pittsburgh, and then a couple of years on the move. Was that part of what was important for you to stay put, to finally, relax, stop moving a little bit, because you had a little bit of a tumultuous year or two?
Yeah, that's just kind of the way it goes. It's a little bit frustrating when you're bouncing around, but ultimately, it wasn't a great fit for me in Arizona, and they wanted to move on, and then going to Nashville is, it was nice to get back in the playoffs there and have a chance to just play some playoff hockey, but it was definitely a factor for me. But I think it was probably one of the smaller factors, to be honest. For me, I'm not going to make a decision just because I don't want to bounce around. I'm going to make one based on, almost, more of the facts of the situation. I think for me, I think it's been a good fit on the ice and off the ice. The guys in the room have been great and welcomed me and been great teammates and friends for me. I think the coaching staff is doing a great job. So I think when you look at the entire aspect of the organization, it's something that I felt that I wanted to be a part of for the next few years.
How much comfort of that is the comfort with the organization, and two, then also the area, even first time living here?
Yeah, for sure. It's honest. It's treated me very well. I've been fortunate. Everyone here in Buffalo has welcomed me and been extremely friendly, extremely helpful. You can just see how hungry this fan base is for a playoff team. So, it's exciting to have that. And, I don't blame them one bit for being frustrated with the season we're having, but also the last few years and that aspect. So we're gonna do everything we can to get back to the playoffs and make this fan base proud to come watch us play.
And finally, Jason, before we let you go, every time we have a hockey guest on, I want to ask: are you taking in what Ovechkin is doing? Are you tracking it night to night? We asked Lindy about him. In your experience playing against him, just like what is happening, and this record that it would seem inevitably is going to fall as he becomes the all-time goal scorer in the league.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible to watch. For me, early in my career, obviously him and Sid were just were on another level, and it was fun watching them and playing against them. Or not fun to play against them, but it was a good experience to play against them, I'll say. I think every game in Minnesota, Ovechkin had a hat trick, and all three of them were from his spot. It was just inevitable. We used to give Devin Dubnyk a ton of shit for it, because it was just like literally every game was just 3 one-timers bar down. There was nothing he could do about it, and he's just that good. So I have been following it. It's been really fun to see, and I think for all of us, we're lucky to say that we've played against him and in the same league as him, and at the time when he's breaking a record is pretty special. So it's definitely been a fun experience to see it. Not when he's scoring against you every night, but it's a special thing for sure.
Well, Jason, thanks again for the time. Congratulations on the extension, and best of luck going forward.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.
Jason Zucker of the Buffalo Sabres. 2-year extension for him, just signed, so he's with the team for 2 more seasons. Jeremy and Joe here on WGR. Ovechkin, what's the number at now? It's 8?
8 from tying, 9 from breaking.
All right.
The record.
Very good.
No offside challenges, please. Coaches, send a memo. Send a memo right now. Every coach in the league, send a memo. No challenges.
Ryan in New Jersey is up. Hey, Ryan, good morning.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good.
Morning.
I just wanted to talk about the moves that we're making. If I were to tell you $88 million, you know what the significance of that is? The money that we're about to waste on that we've wasted on Curtis Samuel, that we're about to waste on Josh Palmer, and this new guy, Michael Hoecht, who I've never heard of. It's crazy to me how Bean keeps doing this year after year. Like, we signed Dawson Knox to a big deal, never use him, draft, Dalton, and, he doesn't really do anything. We got Curtis Samuel last year for $28 million, $8 million a year on the cap hit, which isn't something small, and we don't use him. We go get Josh Palmer. He's going to be like whatever that is, like $10 million or so on the cap hit. And again, why did we do this? We keep wasting money on these guys that we don't even have a plan for, and that adds up. Rather than, okay, Bean, you stink in rounds 1 through 2, and you're good at drafting 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th rounders, those guys that can just kind of plug in the lineup. Why not just go out and, instead of spending this marginal money that adds up that we keep wasting on these guys, go and get guys that are going to make impact and spend big dollars. Look at the Eagles. They pay their best players: A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Dickerson, Lane Johnson, Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, Dallas Goedert. Those are the guys that they pay, and they give them big deals on their roster. The rest of the roster are guys that they just draft and plug in. But if you pay those core guys, that's what makes your team so good, because those guys jump off the screen. We don't do that. We keep handing out these deals that are marginal contracts to these role player type guys that come to Buffalo and don't even do anything. I guarantee you, Mack Hollins, Josh Palmer this year won't outproduce what Mack Hollins did last year. Curtis Samuel, hopefully he does something, but most likely not. Between those 2 deals, that's 1 receiver for $18 million a year. Make this make sense to me, because it's absolutely insane. It's embarrassing, and it pisses me off, because it's the reason why we're going to be stuck. Kansas City doesn't do this. The Eagles don't do this. Baltimore doesn't do this. We're the only team that continues to do this stupid stuff. I don't know if it's because it's so hard to get players to come to Buffalo that we have to hand out these contracts to bring guys in. But to me, it doesn't feel that way. You have an MVP quarterback, a great city, a great stadium. I don't understand why this guy keeps on trying to screw this team over. It's unbelievable. And they keep running it back with these same strategies. Why not do something different? It doesn't work. Stop handing out these contracts to these guys that you have no plan for, you're not going to use, and all this wasted money continues to add up and add up and add up. Go get guys that are impact difference makers, pay them, and then draft your backup tight end in the 5th round. Don't sign Knox to a huge deal if you're not going to use him, if you're going to replace him the following year. There's literally no point to have this guy on our team. Last year, there was no point to have Curtis Samuel on our team. We could have had a guy in the 6th round do the same thing that he did. There's now no point to have Josh Palmer. He's the great separator. Look at his numbers. Wow. He didn't do anything for the Chargers.
Twice as much as Mack Hollins, though, who you said he's not going to outproduce.
He is not going to outproduce Mack Hollins. Mack Hollins last year was unbelievable for the Bills. Played almost every snap, insane at run blocks.
And had 300 yards.
Right, fine. Josh Palmer won't outproduce him, I guarantee you, because tell me, who's better, Curtis Samuel or Josh Palmer?
I mean,
Last year,
they're
you
different.
would have said Curtis Samuel. Doesn't matter. Last year, you would have said Curtis Samuel. And what did he do? Nothing.
Right.
Because we don't know why we're bringing these guys in. Brandon Beane just doing his thing. Looking at some.
Well, let me interrupt you and just say, instead of just saying everything they do is wrong. Which, listen, I don't think every point you've made here is a bad one. I think there's a lot of truth to what you're saying. But the idea, the Chiefs and the Ravens don't do this. Don't do what? What did the Chiefs and the Ravens do that the Bills haven't?
KC pays their guys.
Who?
They pay
Who?
They pay Patrick Mahomes. They pay Travis.
Hold on.
They also signed a middle-of-the-road lineman for $30 million yesterday.
They paid Hall of Fame players. If the Bills had those, they would also pay their own. The concept that you're getting to is that the Bills are signing middle-of-the-road free agents, which is not wrong. But it's not like they didn't. The Bills decided not to pay Chris Jones. So who is it that the Ravens and the Chiefs have? What do they do that the Bills didn't do?
Well, what I'm trying to say is, when it comes to these skill positions, right, we're clearly weak at D end. We're clearly weak at wide out.
Let's pause. They spent out the nose for defensive end. They draft like crazy for defensive end. They have poured endless assets into defensive end. They paid $120 million for Vaughn. Nothing about it is how it's hard to come here. What you're getting to is, by the way, Ryan, the league year starts tomorrow. We are still negotiating. They could go out and sign 5 guys today. And chances are you wouldn't be all that happy with the guys they signed because it's not a great free agency class. So you're going out and you're filling spots, and you're signing guys like Josh Palmer who really there's really not any reason to get that upset about it. Who would you rather have instead? Hold on. You'd rather have a 6th-rounder instead? Go look at the Bills' 6th-round history of drafting a receiver. You didn't get a guy like, who's the kid they had from West Virginia for 5 minutes? Or Austin Prohl.
Marquez
or
Stevenson.
Ray McLeod. The idea that you just, don't pay that guy, just get a 6th-round pick. That just doesn't work. That's not how that works. If you want them to get better players, I'm with you. I mean, I've been in this seat for 5 years saying, please, God, draft Brian Thomas. Please do something. Trade up for Neighbors. Trade up for Marvin Harrison. I want them to be more aggressive and get great players as well. But you got to acknowledge it's not just as easy as getting one. That's another part of the Diggs trade. When Diggs got traded, thank you for the phone call, Ryan. We're getting to a break. I don't think anything you said is out of bounds, really. I think there might have been a little bit of poetic freedom, poetic license on some of it. The Knox contract, it was bad the day they signed it. And they keep pushing it down, and he's here because they think he's valuable. Mack Hollins, he's a guy. I mean, if you're saying you think you can get bargain basement guys to put up results with Josh Allen, you're not wrong. We saw that last year. But I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with it. I don't think you're wrong. It's just you don't just go out and find a number 1 receiver. That's hard to do. The Bills traded Diggs, and within 5 minutes, people told me Curtis Samuel was going to be Diggs. That's not how that works. No one should be expecting that to happen. Signing Curtis Samuel for $9 million a year is, let's see what this guy does. That is cheap money at receiver. That is not a big commitment. So, I don't know. If you want to phrase it or frame it as they've wasted $70 million on a collective 6 years of receivers, of which we've seen one of those years on a turf-toed Curtis Samuel, then I guess you could do that. But Palmer got a 3-year deal. Samuel's got 2 years left. I think they'll still probably try to get somebody better at receiver. I don't know. I'm over here thinking the Kincaid pick is still the biggest thing they did wrong. But that's just me. Because they're constantly doing everything except the big receiver thing. So I'm kind of with you on some stuff, and I'm kind of not with you on others, and I hope that made sense to respond in any way.
The thing I think was most wrong about that is that the other teams don't do it. They absolutely do
Everybody does this.
The Chiefs signed yesterday an offensive tackle for 2 years, $30 million that everyone immediately went from the Niners. Jalen Moore.
Yeah, he's not good.
Everyone's reaction was like, what did they just do?
Yeah.
This guy is mid at best. He is below average, and they gave him $15 million per year. The Chiefs do this all the time. And you know why the reason they don't actually get punished for it? You know why the reason these teams don't lose when they do make these signings? It's because he mentions $80 million for those three players. Okay, over 3 years. The cap over 3 years is $850 million.
Right.
$80 million of $850 million for three free agents is nothing.
I'm just begging everyone to never actually think about the money on a contract anybody ever signs. It's such a poison atmosphere. Oh, Adam Schefter reports this deal. 3 years, $100 million. It was negotiated by, Reed, Ryerson, Smithson, and Smythe law firm or whatever. Was the one from the
I think you nailed it from the Greg Buck.
Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport. These guys can give you exactly the names of the people that negotiated the deal, and the numbers they give you are a lie.
Right. Josh Palmer's cap hit this year, I bet, is it
It's
out there?
I think it's $4 million.
$4 million. So him and Samuel together, I think Samuel's is $8 million. So it's gonna be $12 million for the two of them, not $20 million.
It might not be $4 million. That might have been Michael Hoecht, who's $4 million.
But it's not going to be much more than $4 million.
Just don't worry about the cap. What you said about the Eagles, everything about that was right. They pay their offensive stars and get the best players on offense, and they draft on defense. And then they let the defensive players walk. They just let Milton Williams walk, Josh Sweat walk, and Darius Slay. Boom, 3 guys. Just draft some other ones and pay our studs on offense.
Right.
That's what I would do.
They did. This is where even the Eagles aren't. They're different in that way. They're not even totally different from the idea of, these other teams don't pay middle-of-the-road free agents. Last year, the Eagles paid Zach Baun at linebacker. He was a middle-of-the-road linebacker addition. It just so happened that, he turned into an all-pro.
Then he was awesome.
But he had not been an all-pro linebacker before this year. They just signed him to a 3-year extension after having the best season of his career, which, by the way, is also proof that sometimes it does work. Yep. It might only be one of every 15 free agents you sign that happens to, but the Eagles signed Zach Baun at linebacker, and then he instantly got 10 times better, and they paid him.
I remember the day the Bills signed Beasley and Brown. There was a tweet that went out there from some NFL person that said, this is how bad teams stay bad. And those guys turned into pretty nice pieces.
Right.
So, anyway.
Some good points, but I think some of it went too far.
Either way, thanks for the call. I think it's a great call. You get us going. You get some good stuff in there. I appreciate it. Appreciate the call. And don't agree on everything, but, I'd be banging down the doors for the best players possible because that's always what I want is the blue chippers.
Another defensive tackle off the board, Javon Hargrave to the Vikings.
Oh, the Vikings just added 2.
Right, because they got Jonathan Allen earlier in the day.
Yes. All right, 803-0550, 1-888-550-2550. Jeremy and Joe, thanks for the phone call, Ryan, for setting us up a little bit. We'll get more of your calls if you want here on WGR.
Sanderson, Stützle, call the factory, broken stick along the boards now. Stützle to the bench, here's a chance, Sanderson outside, they score! It's a power play goal. Dylan Cousins with his first as an Ottawa Senator.
Cousins, the game winner, Allmark, the win in net. The Ottawa Senators are having the kind of season the Sabres, and we would love to have. Joining us on the Western Hotline from TSN 1200 in Ottawa, AJ Jakubec, who go on their station sometimes talking Sabres, and the Sens are looking good, and Dylan Cousins scored a big goal. AJ, good morning. Thanks for taking some time today.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So the atmosphere is good, huh? Life's good. What's that like?
It sounded fun.
It sounds fun. Sounds like you guys are having a good time in Ottawa.
I feel for you guys because I've experienced some of what you've been through with the Sabres, partially from the last 7 years in Ottawa, but I also, I'm in Edmonton right now at my parents' place, and I spent about half of the quote-unquote decade of darkness covering the Oilers at that time as well, when they missed the playoffs 10 straight years.
They call it a decade of darkness, huh?
I've heard it referred to as that.
Yeah. We just over here call it the drought, but that's probably because we had one with the Bills, and it's just the sequel.
Roll into it.
Yeah, the drought. Anyway, go ahead.
It just seems interminable in terms of when you go through 7 or 8 or 10 years of this, and so I can't even imagine what 14 years is. But from an Ottawa Senators perspective and a fan base perspective, they've been just dying for something. Meaningful games in March. That's what we heard for a few years. And then they got a handful a couple of years ago, and it lasted 3 or 4 games right after the trade deadline. They picked up Jake Chikrin. They won 4 in a row, and then they went out west, and it started in Chicago and just got smoked, and then season over. So for them to be in the mix and really controlling their own destiny, fans are pretty pumped at what's going on.
Well, congratulations. We got you on in part, to talk about Cousins and Allmark and all that. But Josh Norris, the two pieces the Sabres got back in the trade. Josh Norris, who becomes immediate core piece for the Sabres, he and Cousins in a swap of guys that make that much money in that much term. It's kind of rare in hockey. So what did not work out with Norris in Ottawa, and why will it work for the Sabres if you think it will?
I think combination of things. I think he was a really important player for the Ottawa Senators over the last few seasons, and certainly a core piece, someone that fit right in. Basically, best friend of Brady Tkachuk, and a great goal scorer that scored 35 one year. But availability, I think, was the biggest issue with surgery on both shoulders multiple times on one side, and just I think the combination not only of that, but the combination of availability, but with both he and Shane Pinto was an issue. And the reality was Pinto, younger, cheaper, a little bigger, a little better defensively. So it just made sense. And you look at the slide this year when they lost 5 games in a row right before the Four Nations, that coincided with both of those players being out of the lineup. And you look at the last 4 seasons, just in terms of combined games played, it was 71, 90, 91, and this year 104. So this year, has been the best in terms of availability of having both Pinto and Norris in the lineup. And there's, a record where the Sens are about 20 games over 500 when all 3 of their centers play. That includes Tim Stützle as well. But when both of them were down at the same time, it was just a different team, and a team that just couldn't compete, as we saw right before the deadline when both of them were out of the lineup. So I think it was just one of those things where maybe they thought, well, if there's a deal like this on the table for someone similar terms, similar money, a center with maybe a little bit more size as well, and younger and some pretty good upside, then why not bring him in and make this deal now rather than at the end of the season? Because I thought the one thing I thought was, okay, I like the move, but it's a little bit risky, especially with a team in the playoff hunt, playing well at the time of the deal, to make a move, shake up the core in the midst of a playoff chase. But as we've seen the last couple of games, team chemistry hasn't been affected too much. And I do like the move just because of that availability factor.
What is, for a Sabre fan watching Norris, you would have seen his speed yesterday set up their game-winning goal. But in general, what to you is like the most eye-popping part of his game?
Just his ability to score on the half wall, on the power play. He can be absolutely lethal from the right-hand side on that power play. He's a good, solid player that, like, I don't think he's going to be a number one center in the NHL, but he's a real good number two. And, a lot of centers are pass first. He's more of a shoot first guy. And man, he can really score, especially on the power play on the half wall. But one thing I really like in terms of his game is it seems a little bit more complete than when he joined the league. And he's playing with a little bit more jam as well. So I think he's added that to his repertoire. He's got, a real high number of hits this year. So I think, look, when he's healthy, he's a really good player. And I think, this was not an easy one for Ottawa Senators fans and certainly players to digest. I mean, Brady Tkachuk was emotional for a reason, along with other players like Tim Stützle, a real popular core player. But, yeah, if you're to say, okay, what's the one eye-popping thing about Josh Norris, man, he can really rip it from that right-hand side, especially on the power play.
And finally, AJ, quickly on Jacob Bernard Docker. Any thought there?
Yeah, I think he's an NHL defenseman. Again, probably a little bit slight in terms of what he brings, but is willing to block shots. And I think in the NHL today, you need 7-8 deep. And Bernard Docker, if asked to come in and play for the Ottawa Senators, was always a solid option. That was a group that probably just needed to be a little bit bigger, and that's where Nicholas Matinpalo, who really emerged out of nowhere this past season, not just for Ottawa, but got the late call because of injuries to the likes of Miro Heiskanen and Rasmus Ristolainen, got to play for Finland at the Four Nations face-off, and he was outstanding. So probably just brought a little bit more of what they needed on that right-hand side because that defense core as a whole was pretty light. So they had the opportunity to make a trade like this, and I think Buffalo's picking up a solid player. He's still only 24 years old, and I really like the way he moves the puck. So, I think you're getting a pretty solid guy that at the very least can be a depth piece, but certainly if he keeps progressing, could certainly be a solid third-pairing guy.
Very good, AJ. Thanks so much.
Yeah, my pleasure, guys.
All right, good luck to the Senators the rest of the season on their march to the playoffs.
They're
AJ,
in sorry, go ahead.
AJ Jakubec of TSN 1200 in Ottawa.
They're in the first wild card spot right now.
All right.
Up by 3 points on a playoff spot.
We'll get a break in Extendo Sports. If we have time in Extendo Sports, we'll get that phone call in, Dave, if you can hang. If not, the Extra Point Show's coming up. 803-0550, Jeremy and Joe on WGR. All right.
There's a national high school sports scandal that should infuriate you.
All right.
Called stall ball. Did you know that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 states that do not have shot clocks in high school basketball? So, East High in Illinois held the ball the entire first quarter en route to an upset win over top-ranked Pecatonia in their sectional title game, sparking national outrage. Game last month, New Mexico wasn't much better. 4-2 was the final score, where both teams held the ball for all 10 minutes until there was 1 second left on the clock and then would shoot the ball at the buzzer.
Arrest the coaches.
Right? I think yes. There's video of it. They're just standing there. They are just standing there watching the clock tick.
I mean, my kids are 4 today. Happy birthday. If I were a parent of a league, of a team, whatever, a parent of a child on this team, I would forcibly remove the coach from the gym myself and take over. I would stage a coup. I would coach coup. Get out. We are not fools. I am the national outrage. I am outraged. It takes a lot to get me really not pretend outraged.
There's 6 minutes left, second quarter, 0-0. This guy's shooting free throws. And now they're still holding the ball. Dribble. Go ahead, run the corner out.
Arrest the coach. And everybody involved.
And also, if this has happened a couple times, I mean, put shot clocks in everywhere. Apparently you can't trust everybody to not do something.
I thought that was just a universal rule of basketball.
If a team, right, like if a team in high school basketball is up by 4 in the fourth quarter, then this underdog team, whatever, doesn't even matter, and the coach is a jerk, he just holds the ball for the whole fourth quarter, what are you supposed to do? You got to foul him with 13 minutes left?
Yes.
That gets really dumb really quick.
That is really dumb.
Stall ball, it's called.
It's horrid. What else? Yeah. All right. We're light on time. It's going to be beautiful out today. Enjoy it. Hopefully the Bills sign some more players. Hopefully people aren't mad about the money that's spent. I'm thinking about my kink next year in fantasy football drafts is I'm going to be a person. I want to go to everybody's draft, and it's going to be an auction draft. I'm going to go to as many auction drafts as I can and sit in the corner and tell everybody they're just spending too much money. Oh, that's just too much for that guy. I'm sorry. That's
overpay.
Too much. That is half of free agency analysis. So just an overpay. Everybody's just too much money.
Wouldn't have wanted that price.
You're all just too much. Everybody's signing for too much money. I'm going to do that all summer. I'm coming to all your fantasy drafts and telling all of you it's too much money. Then you look at me and be like, who would you sign? Like, I don't have to sign anybody. I just think all of you are spending too much money. There you go. This is my tiny rant. All right. Northtown Automotive Extra Point Show coming up.